Well, it's the fourth day of the week. It's my day. Welcome to Thursday on the AM show. And I give you Mary Poppins, sweetie.
I'm popping today, aren't I?
Yeah, you're popping. You're popping out.
Right.
Hope you had a good night.
Yes, I did. Oh, lovely tie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And your brooch is...
Thank
it's
you.
broaching.
But let's tell you what we have in store for you this morning on our 4-hour package of the AM show. We'll start by serving you the AM news. I'll anchor that myself. And then after that, we'll get into our news review segment. Today, Nanaya Sapong from the Movement of Change will be joining us, as well as David Kweku Wawi Brown. He's a lawyer and a member of the NDC communications team. And they'll be joining us to review the newspapers. And then after that, Muftar Nabil Abdullahi will serve you AM sports. Of course, our big stories come right after.
Well, from there, if you've heard of oral, it has nothing to do with what you have in your buccal cavity or your mouth. It has to do with Operation Recover or Loot. And the minority, though, in Parliament is calling on the former government officials to boycott any engagements with the Operation Recover or Loot team, arguing that their operations are unconstitutional and a violation of Ghana's legal framework. We'll be discussing that and delving into whether it's legal, whether it's illegal. But you out there, what do you think about it? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, you want to join us, but we also bring you another conversation on the fire outbreaks in Ghana because it's become a significant concern and it's affecting homes, markets and public institutions, leading to devastating losses. But what has been the state of fire insurance in Ghana? James Eshen is on the beat and has been exploring the prospect, and he'll bring us that on AM Business today on Thursday. Across all social media platforms, we are Joy News on TV. Get the conversations going, follow us, send us some comments here and there. Let's know that you're following the show. But for now, let's get into the AM news. Welcome to the AM News. Let's get into the details. Now, the opposition and NPP government in Parliament are taking the war against the Operation Recover or Loot Committee a notch higher as it charges appointees of the Eswal Akufo-Addo administration to disregard the mandate of the committee. Now, the NPP minority have described the oral committee chaired by Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa as unconstitutional and without any legal basis at all. Addressing journalists in Parliament, MP for Suame, John Dako, spoke on behalf of the minority and asked former government officials to totally disregard any invitations from the committee.
The Attorney General designate is a law professor. When approved, he is going to be the chief enforcer of our laws. When he appeared before the committee and was asked about the legality of this oral, he justified it. He justified the unconstitutional establishment and putting together of people who go about harassing former government officials. We believe that the establishment of that oral committee violates and flies in the face of our constitution. And so one would have expected that a law professor in the person of Dr. Ayeni would have condemned it. But rather, he justified it. Now his justification is now putting the work of the police CID, IOCO, and special prosecutor, and constitutionally established bodies out of business. It is concerning, and we want the people of Ghana to know that no serious country will entertain anything such as this. And so if you are a former government official and you're invited by this so-called ORA, our advice to you from the minority is to boycott any invitation from the ORA team. We are not going to be part of it because we believe that there are constitutionally established bodies that can investigate any so-called misdeeds of the government. What are they doing? What they are doing is to go about disturbing people, entering homes, taking vehicles, seizing vehicles, and more or less taking over lands from people who have genuinely purchased land.
Now, it will be recalled that at the vetting of Dr. Dominic Ayeni, the NPP insisted the oral committee has no lawful basis, but the nominee disagreed. Supported by Mahama Yariga, the two NDC MPs cited constitutional provisions to back their position that the oral committee is grounded in law.
There is nothing about oral in in Act 30. Now, the question whether oral is legal has been raised, by various people within the media, right? Oral is the operation recover all loot. If you look at the preamble to the Constitution, it is very, very clear about what are the fundamental values underpinning the Constitution. The value of accountability is one of the preambular commitments in our Constitution. It's a primary value. Oral is supposed to exact accountability from persons either politically exposed or persons holding public office who used or misused their office to loot public resources by way of property, money, and other intangible resources. So oral is constitutional. Oral is legal. In fact, the fact that it is a non-legal body doesn't mean that it is illegal. There's a distinction between non-legality and illegality.
So if somebody forms a committee to elicit information about instances of looting of public property and waste and resources, is it not to provide an avenue for compliance with this constitutional provision? Is that not what it is?
No, we are.
And how different is this campaign from the campaign that took place recently? See something, say something. If you see looting, say it. If you see stealing, say it.
A strange fish disease has emerged in Kambunli, a Muslim community in Elembele district of the Western region, raising public health concerns. Fishermen are paralyzed by fear and uncertainty as they allege a certain mysterious disease is ravaging their catches, rendering the fish unfit for consumption. Amidst this dire situation, the desperate fishermen are issuing an urgent appeal to investigate the source of the disease and find a swift and lasting solution to restore their livelihoods. Joy News Western Regional Correspondent has the details.
A disturbing trend has emerged in Kambunli's fishing community, where fishermen have reported alarming changes in their recent river catches. Over the past few months, fish have developed severe skin infections characterized by red, swollen lesions that quickly escalate into gaping wounds, rendering them unsellable and unfit for consumption. This crisis has inflicted significant economic hardship on the fishing community, prompting urgent calls for investigation and action. To gather first-hand information and corroborate the fishermen's earlier complaint, the news team embarked on a fishing expedition with the Kambunli fishermen on the Ebi River. Unlike sea fishing, where nets are cast into the ocean, these river fishermen employ a unique method, setting wire mesh traps at strategic points to catch a variety of fish species. Dauda Amadou Nda and Ayuba are fishermen.
Before by afa hwamaye to bansa na oma ahoche bebre aba wo committee mu don aye adwuma wo mu no ahoche kan pa 26 ya wa mantini yes kan to bibia nhwe ni mamu gema ahoche kan pa.
Concerned about the potential health implications of these findings, we consulted with Dr. Augustine Amwakon, the Elembele District Health Director, to gain a deeper understanding of the situation and its possible consequences for the community.
Yes, there's likely to be health implication. We cannot be emphatic now because we don't know the exact cause. So when the team come and they take sample of the fish, sample of the water, and we test, then we'll know what is actually causing it, be it a chemical or whatever is causing it. So for now, we can predict that there will be health consequences. Just that we can't tell exactly what, because we don't know which chemical in the water is causing that.
Meanwhile, the traditional authorities have imposed a temporary ban on all fishing activities in Fia, Ebi, and Amanzule rivers.
We also summoned them, the fish folks. So they were advised to keep off from the river, to work on the river, because now they don't know actually what the cause is. So we report to the appropriate porters. When they investigate and see what is happening, then they can advise accordingly. So for now, we have seized them. They don't go to the river.
Shaibu Abdullah Isaka remains gripped by fear, revealing that he purchased some of the affected fish in the past. Now, he's faced with a dilemma. The fish are unusable.
As a result of this emergency, anybody who has bought some already and then kept for home consumption is in a dilemma. And because of that, you need to keep it. So a lot of people are keeping theirs in their freezers. As I speak to you, I bought mine about 2 weeks ago.
Fishmongers who share their concerns with us lamented their frustrations and losses due to the contaminated fish. They urgently call on stakeholders to expedite their investigation, seeking a swift resolution to restore their livelihoods.
Oh, I have because omonko as omonko nti menya adwuma bi anye
sesia mama ye ho akire se enam no omode ba yentumi ndi yentumi nya ho hwe nti sesia ho akire pa
nti omommo modan amaye mpesempese mumaye se di amubaye na yensa akoya no se yare o se di yen na mommo modan waye.
Investigation into the mysterious fish disease remains stalled as the Western Regional Fisheries Commission has yet to collect samples of the affected fish and river water. Consequently, the Kambunli community and neighboring areas will continue to face uncertainty and fear until the cause of the disease is determined.
Hopefully, authorities can help nip this in the bud. Now, Ghana has recorded 4,650 fire incidents between January and September 2024, raising serious concerns about public safety. The recurrent market fires have left countless individuals devastated, not only grappling with the loss of their livelihoods, but also enduring profound psychological impact. In the following report, my colleague Jennifer August delves into the enduring trauma faced by victims of these fires.
On January 2, 2025, a fire at Kantamanto Market destroyed properties and livelihoods. It is one of many fires ravaging major markets nationwide. The Ghana National Fire Service put the total fire disaster recorded between January and September 2024 at 4,650. But beyond the numbers and the devastations lie deep emotional tales.
At the sight of the fire destroying my items, I had to be sprinkled with water before I could get back on my feet. I am a single parent who goes to work every day before my children can eat. It hasn't been easy for me. I get scared whenever I remember the situation. What has happened to us is difficult. I am suffering. I just walk about whenever I get here. Every dawn, I get worried because I have nowhere to go. Truly, we had a lot of bills in our shops. People collapsed, with some still in the hospital. Recently, another person also collapsed. A guy who helps us also died from the fire.
And then 3 days, your boy back was swaying a container boy, wada or tip or piano in a Janiciano, where
Experiencing a fire, especially with livelihood loss, can deeply impact mental health. recovery is long and challenging for those who lose everything. Dr. Abigail Na Ayele Harden, a psychiatrist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, sheds light on the psychological toll of Ghana's market fires.
The most common thing that happens in the early stages after you've experienced such a traumatic event are things like anxiety, feeling worried, having lack of sleep, feeling troubled and feeling overwhelmed. There's also a sense of hopelessness because you've lost everything.
Mental health professionals warn that the psychological effect of traumatic events often linger long after the crisis ends, underscoring the importance of seeking support.
Initially, in the early stages, rely on your loved ones, seek support from your family, from your friends. Thereafter, we'd also encourage you to seek help from a mental health professional. They're always available as psychiatrists and psychologists to offer help. Even if you do develop a disorder down the line, there are medications that are available to help you to be able to manage these and treat these conditions. What I would advise is that they take one day at a time. It's a major loss they've experienced.
The unspoken bit of fire is the human story, one of courage, hope, and resilience. Jennifer August report, read to you.
Now, the chief of Chapuri in the Jirapa municipality of the Upper West region, Naduobo Tulombong II, has stated that one way to address the challenge of youth migration from the northern parts of the country to the south in search of menial jobs, particularly farming, is to create similar opportunities for them within their respective communities. Citing the dam at Chapuri, which he described as small and silted, Dabuo expressed his firm belief that if the dam is destilted and expanded, it will enable the youth to engage in year-round gardening within the community. Speaking on the occasion of his first anniversary as chief of Chapuri, Dabuo appealed to the president to come to the aid of his people. There's more in this report.
Chapuri, located at the center of the Upper West region, is a farming community in the Jirapa municipality. It has been without a chief since the death of the late chief Dausa Tanye in November 2006. The community remained without a leader following a protracted chieftaincy dispute until May 2023, when both the chief Nadebu Tolobon II and the Queen Mother Pona Paniku Modesta Fati I were enskined. These inspired community members to organize a one-year anniversary to celebrate and to adore the chief and the Queen Mother of the community at a colorful ceremony at Chapuri, attended by sons and daughters of the area. Septuagenarian Nadebu Tolobon II, known privately as Mohammed Mahama Paga, is a father of 5, husband to 2, and a former banker with the Bank of Ghana. Nadebu Tolobon II was thanking President John Dramani Mahama for the massive victory in the December polls, however penciled some challenges in the Chapuri community which he would want him to have fixed.
This place like this, he won. And we expect him to come and take care of those things for us. Our light is not up to date. We had a dam for dry season because the boys here, those who are hardworking, they like doing dry season farming, gardening, vegetable gardening. So we want all those things to come in place. And then our roads are no good. So we want them to at least, even if you look at our bridge, linking Ping from here in the river, it's very low.
Queen Mother of Chapuri, Pona Paniku Modesta Fati I, sees empowering women in the traditional area as a topmost priority.
Men are the backbone of every community. We give birth to children, take care of them, educate them in a way, more than the men, actually. Women are doing well. So I want to make my women here to be more responsible in the case of children or childbearing.
Assembly member of Chapel Electoral Area, Joseph Vielle, on his part, recalled concerns of the chief of Chapore over the indiscriminate cutting of economic trees for charcoal production, causing the people to desist from the act.
I want to use this platform to caution the entire zonal council over the indiscriminate felling of commercial trees, such as sear trees, dawadawa trees, for charcoal, despite its future economic and environmental consequences it might bring to the populace. I personally appeal to all involved to desist from it. Otherwise, let me state this emphatically, otherwise, if we are caught, the law will take its course.
Former Chief Director at the Ministry of Lands and Forestry, and Tuaporna, Professor Bruce Bono Yokubu, who served as a guest of honor, highlighted the importance of chieftaincy, which he said has been established by law and should not be toyed with.
Chieftaincy is not just a local affair. It is governed by law. And I think now Tulombong II has been gazetted. And therefore, wherever he is in this country, he must be respected as a chief. And that means that the people of Chapore must respect him. The people of Jrapa traditional area must respect him. The people of Ulo traditional area must respect him. The people of Upper West must respect him.
Also present at the function was the acting president and paramount chief of the Jiruba traditional area, Nadina Donlabongana III. Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam, Chapor.
From those beautiful scenes in Chapre, let's go to the Ashanti region now, because 42 semi-finalists from the Ashanti region have been inducted into the 2025 edition of the Ghana Science and Technology Explorer Prize Challenge, that is GSTEP. Now, the GSTEP is an annual science and technology challenge exploring the creativity and ingenuity of basic school pupils in offering pragmatic solutions to societal problems. And as part of auditions for this year's edition, the semi-finalists are expected to commence a mini prototype of their project ahead of their pitches to qualify as one of 15 teams to represent the Ashanti region at the grand finale. There's more in this report.
In the last 3 years, the Ghana Tech and Science Explorer Prize GSTEP Challenge has empowered young people to harness their practical experiences to impact their communities positively. This year's edition is taking a unique approach with hands-on activities like building structures, pitching ideas, and early distribution of technical tools to aid the development of a prototype. These exercises aim to sharpen the participants' technical, business, and presentation skills. Founder of GSTEP, Constance Ajiman, emphasized the program's mission to nurture the creativity and problem-solving skills of young minds, while equipping them with practical experiences and teamwork abilities.
Team building is an important part of GSTEP, and therefore they have to learn how to work together, avoid conflicts, and work through to share a vision and make their products a reality. They have to have some hands-on practical experience of STEM, but they have to do it with low resources. So we want to make sure they can critically think about what can we do with these resources. So there's a really exciting activity where they are building structures, but then we also have the other end of the spectrum where they are flying simulated drones and airplanes. So we want them to have both ends of the spectrums, high digital, but lo-fi too.
Deputy Ashanti Regional Director of Education Thomas Kwame Boateng highlighted the transformative role of the GSTEP in equipping students with essential skills for the 21st century, particularly in the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
I've seen a lot of things. One, they are learning the skill, 21st century skill. One of them is collaborations and then communication. I've seen that what they are doing is empowering that skill, how to present it to the society for them to understand. That is one. Two, you see them, they group them, and they are working as a team. There they are learning collaboration and also learning how to communicate and also understand individual differences so that when you put them in any organization or any field, they will be able to collaborate with one another.
Susanna Hausman, City's portfolio lead for Foundation Botna, Founders for the Challenge believes in the untapped potential of students and young innovators, emphasizing that they can drive meaningful change when given the right platform.
We support projects all over the world, especially because we believe, that young people, students, adolescents, they have a lot to say and a lot to act if we give them the space. And GSTEP is one of those projects which gives the space precisely for these youngsters, 12 to 16 years old, when there is a lot of potential, where they have a lot of ideas, but there needs a process for being sort of like developing and unfolding their creativity, their ideas.
In addition to the 42 semi-finalists from Ashanti, the program will ultimately select 15 teams from each participating region to advance as finalists. Reporting for Joy News, Josephine Sego.
Well, let's get into our business update now with Benjamin Akapo.
Soila, bienvenue. Welcome to business. Now, the manager in charge of strategy and operations at the KPMG, Anne Edu-Forson, has urged businesses to adopt digital platforms to enhance customer management. She emphasized that digital tools helped businesses streamline their operations and improve decision-making. This, she believed, is a cost-effective way of building the right customer experience for business growth. She spoke on Joy Business's advisory series, a 2-week program aimed at equipping SMEs with financial aid, business development insights for the new year.
So there are various ways in which businesses can adopt digital platforms. So you find that there are a lot of toolkits. So let's say accounting software. Okay. And that becomes important because you can then tell in terms of sales, which of my products is selling, the highest. Should I perhaps offer some discounts? Should I offer loyalty benefits to some customers based on that? So you find that it's very key. On the contrary, it doesn't have to be so expensive. Okay. I'll take the small business, for instance. They don't have so many customers. Maybe they have a few hundred customers. It starts with that personal touch. And that doesn't take too much investment. I know that Winston comes here every Wednesday, every Friday. Oh, good afternoon, Winston. How are you? How was your day? It starts with that. That is also customer experience. We also have very basic tools like Microsoft Excel, for instance, if you can't really afford the more advanced CRM tools, for instance. So it's then saying, how do we use what we have to enhance the experience? It doesn't have to be expensive.
And our second story, manager of macroeconomic research at the Ghana Commercial Bank PLC, Courage Boti, has called on government to use the main budget that will be read in March to inspire confidence in the money market to help ease pressure on the city. Demand for dollars has picked up strongly for the first month of this year, thereby putting some fresh pressure on the Ghana cedi since last week. Reacting to this development, Mr. Boti maintained government had to be proactive in allaying the fears of the market going forward.
What can be done? There will be more solutions. Will be managing communication around it, and it will be also the proactive interventions government can do to allay the fears of the market. Like I said, I think I touched on a number of them already. The forthcoming budget is key. You need to give people the sense that something has changed. You need to give them the sense that discipline will be continued. Already, we hear talks about renegotiating the IMF program. What does that mean for investors? Is there a positive thing? Is there a negative thing? It's as good as anyone. But then, if renegotiating, and I know that it's sound, if the fresh release that they suggest renegotiation would ultimately sustain the program and then probably strengthen it, and it maybe some next group we are looking for extended, maybe impose more discipline and all that, then the market will respond. But if it is that you want space to do your priority spending without relieving costs for the revenue gaps and all that, then yes, the market will continue in the mode we are in now.
Well, what's happening on the currency market? We bring you details now. Business is done. Handing over back to Mary Poppins. Sweetie Amachi.
Thank you, Benjamin. But that's a wrap for the AM News Bulletin on the AM show. But of course, Nanaya Sapong from the Movements for Change will be joining us reviewing the newspapers, as well as David Kweku Wawi Brown. He's a lawyer and a member of the NDC communications team. Stay with us. We're back in a bit.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. Our guests will join us in a bit, but my in-house guest is here. Yesterday, when I said I was going to grill her like tilapia, she said she would grill me. Look who's getting grilled now. Anyway.
My in-house guest this morning, Benjamin Akapo.
No problem, no problem.
How's the week been for you so far?
It's been an interesting week. There's been a lot of back and forth. I guess my highlight from yesterday to today would be the minority calling on its erstwhile members of the administration that don't cooperate with loot, don't engage them. It's an illegal group. But from where I sit, right, they are not conducting investigations. They don't have prosecutorial powers. They are not a court, and they are not the OSP. They are not an ombudsman. All they are doing is collecting information. And you see, I always say this, while the rule of law must apply and the law must be followed to the letter, dot the I's, cross your T's, the point also remains that if you've done no wrong, you know, sometimes if you've done no wrong, you want to invite me, no problem. Oh, are you asking how I did this? Well, it is through this mechanism. Check your records, this and that. I have done nothing wrong. If you've done nothing wrong, why the...
I can't wait to hear the argument from the side of the NPP, really, because we'll get into that story later in our big story segment. And what really is fueling this, vehement opposition to oral? They are recovering all loot. They are not even actively doing anything. They're just saying, hey, if you've seen something, tell us. We will transfer the information to the appropriate authorities. But somehow that is something that we have to argue about. But Ben, my highlight really was yesterday.
But just a quick top up. I have said that if oral doesn't work, then we may have to go nasal. I was just joking with the backroom staff back then. But I feel, whichever way you look at it, when they put their reports together, and they've got hundreds of them, of course, Dr. Dominic Ayine, who likely will become the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, should take up those issues, some of them in the public interest. The OSP is there. He's lamented again recently that it's not been easy for him. But I think we need to create some, I don't know whether the word fear is, but there must be a mechanism so that, like we had the fire service officer, Alex Kinati, so that you don't have recidivism. No, it was rather Tobu who mentioned that. So that people have a certain fear, knowing that if you do X, Y, Z, A, B, C are the likely consequences. But we've created a system where people, not just those in government, can do X, Y, Z with a good chance of avoiding A, B, C. I think it's the mechanisms that people have used, whether it's Japan or wherever. People use those mechanisms so that you know that if you go this way, these are the likely consequences. And once that is in place, I think things will be better in terms of the fight against corruption.
Anyway, Benjamin, this all oral thing actually even ends once we have an Attorney General and Minister for Justice, right? So really,
well, some people have said that.
You may continue.
I don't know the full scope, but I've heard some people say that once we have an Attorney General, that ends. Whichever way, the reports get to a certain source, and whether it's Shraj that has to deal with some of those issues, or the OSP, or the Attorney General, deal with them. That's all.
I want to step away from the politics a bit and share my...
I'm sorry I have to do this. Let me do a final point. But let it not also be a witch hunt.
Yeah.
So that let's tackle issues where there are issues, not where there are no issues and maybe you want to show somebody something small. It should be that they should be seen to be tackling issues that have merit. So it doesn't also create the optic of, oh, they are just going after some people because...
Well, I do want to say, though, that yesterday when I went to Kantamanto, that's the highlight for me, in Agbogboshi.
Your interaction.
There's something humbling about, interacting with these traders in the market. And, their state of mind, it's very interesting how they view all this as normal. It's inspiring, to say the least, that they've lost so much, and yet some of them who lost containers or stores have come back to the market with as little as 200, 400 Ghana cedis to go and buy, 3 or 4 dresses, and they'll walk around and sell those, make some money, and go back, And then what's the gentleman telling me that, well, Benny, then you have to start from scratch. And he's so hopeful that in a year or two, he'll be able to make up everything that he lost. So I'm just saying that if you're out there and you have any way of supporting these traders rebuild, please, they need that help. And there's also that controversy about whether the monies that came in, the donations that Alan Cheddar and Baumia gave them, who's actually in charge of the money, whether the money is sitting idle somewhere while they are also, scrambling around to find money to rebuild their stores. So I'm just sort of asking that the general public should also go to the, the aid of these traders at Kantamanto in their quest to rebuild the life that that fire razed to the ground. I think we have to get into a newspaper now. Benjamin, I have the New Republic and the Daily Graphic.
Would you like to start with the Daily Graphic?
Yes, let's get into the Daily Graphic. I was reading an interesting story in the New Republic, but we'll get there, I guess.
Okay.
New security bosses named, yes, a very topical one. Avoiding fuel shortage, WAPCO delays pipeline cleaning. Elect MMDCEs on partisan lines, experts advocate. And resilient leadership, key to business growth. Dr. Sian Ajipom converts petroleum margins to taxes. ASEP urges government. And of course, this is the Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic now. Let's get into the story about elect MMDCEs on partisan lines, because 3 political scientists and a legal luminary have stressed the need for the election of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives on partisan lines. I would wager that this was rather the opposite arguments that we're hearing, whether or not we should actually elect these guys on partisan lines. But it's interesting that these...
But there have been calls for that as well, that, listen, like it or not, it's actually taking that shape, that form. So if you're going to do it, then you might as well do it that way so that it is clear how people are voting. And also that if they vote, then they know how they are doing it, so that, for example, if the people want, for example, now that the NDC is in power, right, if the people want a certain leadership from a certain angle, then they go for it. And then maybe it will impact development at that level in a more constructive, delineated way, rather than having this thing where it is happening, but we are pretending it is not happening. That is the argument of the other side.
We will not be able to eschew the politicization, beg your pardon, I haven't had my coffee yet, of, local governments, Benjamin. That's what we are trying to do away with. Everything comes down to, am I buying a wasso? It's my party. If it's not your party, then you don't, enjoy some benefits and so on and so forth. But I do want to get, let's usher in our guests maybe and get their thoughts on this issue, because local government and decentralization, I think, is one thing that this new administration have waxed lyrical about, how they want to change the status quo. Nanaya Sapong is with the Movement for Change, and he joins us in studio, as well as lawyer and member of the NDC communications team, David Kweku Wowi Brown. David and Nanaya Sapong, welcome to the studio. And that's a very bright color you have on.
Thank you, my sister. You're looking good too.
Thank you.
Now also.
Good morning.
Now also. Right. We also have via Zoom Daniel Parker. He's NPP Greater Accra Regional Secretary. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Daniel. You have to unmute for us. Okay. While we try and reconnect with Daniel over there, let's get the conversation going. Naya Sapong and... wow, I forgot your name.
Mr. Wowi Brown.
Mr. Wowi Brown, yeah. We're talking about, this call to elect MMDCEs on partisan lines. What do you make of it?
Right. Good morning to the viewers and, viewers. I must say that promises have been made by several governments as to how they're going to deal with this situation. Electing them on partisan line, I believe that we need a more holistic approach to this. We should open up the discussion and see which is the best way forward. The reason is because we shouldn't forget that whoever is at the municipality, metropolitan assemblies or the districts is representing the president. And so there must be some leverage where the president should have some control over whoever is representing him. So I would not jump to say, oh, yes, partisan line is okay, non-partisan line is okay. No, we have to look at the situation critically and look at the best way forward, but not forgetting the fact that whoever is there, the president has some level of what? Control over the person to be able to detect. Because if you are an agent of me, then you should be able to do whatever I would want you to do, and I should have some level of what? Control over you. So this would be what I would say to that. I will not jump to say, oh, electing them will not be a problem, because there may be processes where people who the president, maybe 3 people may be nominated, or some number of people may be nominated and are put forth for elections for the people's choice. But I believe that whatever it is, the president or who the people represent should have some level of control over the person. So if we are formulating laws or policies or processes to get these people to such positions, my view is that we should do it in such a way that it will not be like maybe an assembly member who goes there and nobody about. That's what I would say, my take on this. Yes, we can elect them, but the policy should be such that the person who that MMDC is representing has some level of what? Control over such a person, and should be able to what? Tell him, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. Point
made. Now, so I think to a large extent, whether or not we should elect them has really never been a problem. Most people say, let's elect them. We can hold them accountable if we put them in power. But as to whether or not we should be electing them on partisan lines, your thoughts?
Yes, thank you very much, and a good morning to your viewers and Ben also. We from the Movement for Change had a very clear stand on this. We said that there was the need for us to amend Article 243, which actually has to do with the appointment of MMDCs with approval from the various assemblies, all right? And now this is the way to go in order to be able to deepen the local government system and decentralization, all right? So if you are not, the president has so much power as it stands, the executive. The president has so much power, and if the president will still have power at the very bottom line, then some of us are of the view that it doesn't go down well with governance. All right, so I would want to agree with the political scientists who are suggesting that indeed we should elect these MMDCs. Now, whether on partisan lines or non-partisan lines, we all know that everybody knows somebody who knows somebody and knows where somebody belongs. But the fact that the person has gone to contest an election, the person would be embedded with some level of responsibility, all right? And the person would also be burdened with some level of accountability to the people at the grassroots. So we think that, yes, the elections should be on. But the point is, do the DIO have the political will to enforce or push for this amendment? Because at that level, that is where they also use for their local politics. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised when you would have MMDCs being appointed from constituency executive level or branch levels. It happened in the ex-while NPP administration. It's going to happen in this administration. And if we indeed want to push for local governance and the deepening of it, then we should go for the election.
All right. Daniel, via Zoom, are we on mute now? Unmuted now. Let's hear your thoughts on this issue.
Hello, Daniel. If you're with us, please unmute and let us hear you. Daniel Parker.
So I don't know if you are hearing me now. Is it okay?
We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Good morning to our viewers and then good morning to the reps at the stadium. Yes, on the issue, I think it's very confusing. The NPP took a step and we started the process. And then Ghanaians think it should be the other way. It couldn't work out. For me, I feel it is not the time. We still have to wait because looking at how we think as Ghanaians and then how we do our things, it is very difficult for us electing MMDCs. The reason being that even look at the parliamentarians that we vote for. A member of parliament is voted for a political party which is in power. Do everything possible to sabotage a member of parliament, making sure the member of parliament doesn't get projects into his or a constituency. So electing MMDCs, who, for instance, doesn't belong to a certain political party, when one party is in power, will be very difficult for that MMDCs to get projects within his or a district. So for me, I feel our democracy is still young. We'll have to wait for some time to consider this issue of electing MMPs. I feel it is not the time. It is not the time. Ghanaians should wait patiently until we understand the politics, the democracy that is being studied outside. It will be too early for us to make such a decision by electing MMPs.
Okay, thank you. I'll just do two more
stories. I have something brief to say on this. I feel there are arguments for and against that I think make sense. For example, to allow more coordinated development and avert sabotage, right? You would want some process that ensures that maybe there is a delineation in line with the administration and power to ensure that what you want to do, you can get done. But then again, like Mr. Wawi Brown mentions, he talks, and I was going to speak to the past. You know, we were going to have a referendum, and then the NPP administration pulled out because at the last minute, the 11th hour, they realized they were likely to lose, and it would be egg on their faces. So they ran away from that. Some say that was an opportunity missed. But when Mr. Wawi Brown talks about there must be some control, I ask, don't we already have an executive that has too much control? Do you get the point? Our executive is already too powerful, overweening, in some cases, overbearing. So it's dicey for me looking at this. Do we elect? Do we not elect? If we elect them, are we going to see a spiral in more jobs for the boys and girls and partyism rather than nationalism? So there are grave concerns in there to be looked at so that we don't end up creating more problems where we don't need problems. But on the other hand, like I mentioned, you already have a system where people going into these positions are political anyway. They already belong to one side of the political spectrum or the other. So it's tricky for me. Honestly, right now, I don't know where exactly. There are pros and cons on both sides.
Whether or not, we all belong to a political line, whether or not. Whether you want to remain neutral, whether you want to disclose it or not disclose it. Everybody's wearing a political color. And at the local level, they know.
That?
But you
maybe
see,
everyone is aligning with an idea that maybe a
whether you are aligning
party,
with it or you are a member of it or you belong to it, it is just English language.
Make your point.
You understand me? But additionally, it's going to help the checks and balances and reduce corruption. Because, you see, when you know that the party in power or the president who is seated there and his executive members, you are not a part of them and you are not a part of the system, you will be careful in handling the issues at your district. It will reduce wastage, in my view.
So a quick one.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, you know, I based my argument on what is provided for in the Constitution currently. You see, you cannot jump controlling the presidential power and go and say that we want to elect MMDCs on partisan lines. Now the president nominates. Virtually the president appoints one way or the other. Right. So if we are talking of the presidency or the president having too much power, then we should start from the top there, then it would trickle down but to start from the down, it will create a lot of problems. Because even currently, there are problems being created where maybe the president has a vision and there are some MMDCs who might even be appointed by the president but may not want to do what the president does and affects the governance structure. So if we want, we as a country, that's why I said we need to do a holistic, we need to have a holistic view of the issue, deal with it. Okay, if we want MMDCs to be appointed to bring out development, just as people are calling for the fact that MPs should not be ministers. And that can be done through the constitutional order.
Which I agree with.
Yes, I do agree to. I do agree to some extent, yes. To some extent. Yes.
Because if you look at it critically, a lot of the ministers, sometimes some things will, in terms of performance, because they also have to juggle being a member of parliament. And unfortunately, being a member of parliament here is not merely being a legislator. Exactly. You must be at funerals. Exactly. You must be at weddings. Exactly. You must pay this. Exactly. You must pay that. So your attention is very divided. Maybe if you want to be a minister, I subscribe to that. Maybe if you want to be a minister, be a minister. If you're already an MP and you're invited to be a minister, then you choose. If you want to drop, you drop one. Let a legislator be a legislator. In the US, in the UK, you don't have people.
Yes, but maybe let me conclude it. In conclusion, all I want to say is that,
at least.
For as long as MMDCs fall within the ambit of the executive, there must be presidential control. And if we don't want that, then we should amend the constitution to provide a certain way where that control will not be there so they can have independence. But as long as they fall under the executive, there must be executive control. So we need to amend the constitution to make sure that...
Go ahead.
To make sure that we deal with it holistically so that there will not be that problem over there. We must check it, look at it critically. Because for as long as they are under the executive, there must be executive control because you are working within the vision of the president. Now, according to our constitution, the president is the government. And if the MMDCs are working in the government, within the executive, it will be difficult to delineate them unless we make constitutional amendment to that effect. But that's what I want to say.
Just a quick one.
We have to move on.
As much as they work in the line of the executive or directly as executives, does not mean that the president should be the appointing authority. The president need not be the appointing authority to have control. That is all I want to say.
Oh, no, fine,
and that was part of the point I made earlier. Yes. But let's move the conversation forward. As a student of politics, I just wanted to add, because I quickly remember that the UK has a parliamentary system, and so there's a bit of dualization in terms of the rules.
That's what I'm saying.
As a student of politics, I have to quickly remind myself.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe the UK is not the best example,
but the point
but the US and others.
You need to reduce the numbers, like finance.
I mean, going forward, this is a conversation that should be open up to everyone.
I want to add something to what I've already. Yes.
Right.
My sister.
Yeah.
There's something it looks like we are overlooking. The point is that the president only nominates. Our assembly members, who are representatives of the people, are those that elect MMDCs. So I see no difference from the public electing MMDCs and our representatives electing them. There is only a big
difference. There's a big difference.
That is how I see. Allow me to finish my point.
No, you still have the floor. Land on that point for us.
So for me, I feel we should maintain what we have now. And then, like my brother said, we should look at the issue holistically and make sure there are rules and regulations that will guide before thinking of electing. Other than that, the challenges that we have, even electing them in our elections, the current elections we have, look at what has happened in many constituencies where political parties are taking over to declare and then pressing on people to declare election to a certain political party, which is not helping our democracy. So for me, election now is not the best. We should still hold on till we understand why we should elect MMDCs.
All right.
That is how I think. So we have representatives for assembly members who are electing the president nominates and then they elect. So let's maintain this, and then our young democracy, when it goes, will understand what we will go there to elect MMDCs.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's move the conversation forward, but I just want to say that this is a conversation that should be, opened up to everyone to have a say. Maybe this new administration can review whatever the setbacks of that referendum in 2019 was, and then maybe we can start it from there. But let's get into other stories. Now, on the international front, Mozambique's new president sworn in despite opposition boycotts. I was reading that article this dawn, and I thought it was very interesting. It made me feel lucky that we had a fairly safe, should I say, elections. So Mozambique's new president, Daniel Capo, has been sworn in at a low-key ceremony in the capital, Maputo. That was marred by an opposition boycott following heavily disputed elections. And they are saying about 300 people lost their lives in that election since October. And the opposition boycotted the swearing in, but they've gone ahead to swear in the new president. Let me add two stories. I will not get too much into the details, just the headlines, and then we can move forward. New security bosses named. President John Dramani Mahama has made key appointments to the national security setup, with retired Commissioner of Police Jonathan Kofi Boakye as the new Director of Operations at the presidency, and who could oversee operational effectiveness in security matters. Gentlemen, just these two stories. There are so many other stories in the Daily Graphic. Please pick one for yourself and get into it. Convert petroleum margins to taxes, ASAP edges. But some of these stories, I'm sure, will come in your newspapers as well. So let's reflect on these, and then Nana Yosapon, we can get into
Yes, so with regards to our elections, when Daniel had said that our young democracy, at 32 or 33, I don't think we are that young.
You call a 32-year-old man a young man?
If we're human beings, we should have been married with...
No. We are fairly young.
Some responsibility.
30 is very young, please.
You are still young.
Yes, you understand. But we are...
32 is still you.
We are a good example to many countries.
Yeah.
And I think that it is always important for us to deepen the processes when it comes to our elections. Unfortunately, we also did lose some lives.
Yeah.
But not
300.
Not 300, but every single life matters. I am looking out to a time where we would have an election and we will not even hear a gunshot. I am looking out to a time when we would have an election and we would go to the polling stations to cast our vote, and we need not see uniformed men, guiding the place.
Okay.
I think that the framework is what is important. We need a consistent review of our processes, and as we come together as a people collectively, have dialogues each and every time. It's an event, and for that matter, it's not an event, but it's a process, and so we should be able to depend on it. Now, the appointments. I said it on another network that if you are a leader and you would be seen as a good leader, as a student of management, I think that one of the key characteristics of a good leader or a good manager is the ability to identify and to put together a team that would help you to achieve your vision. And I think that so far so good. The first three sector ministers that were appointed: Finance, Attorney General, Minister for Justice, and then that of Energy. Looking at their resumes, looking at what I read and what I witnessed, I think that it is a very good blend. There are personalities that have a good blend of the academic, the practical knowledge and experience. And they have a responsibility to deliver, and they do not have an excuse to fail. And when I saw
they don't have an excuse to fail, eh?
No, they do not have an excuse to fail. And when I saw the appointments of the security couples, I was like, this is also an excellent one, because all of these appointees are individuals who have been there before.
Right.
I mean, either they've been top police couples or they have been ministers of interior before and all that. So, per their experience and per the time they have been able to put themselves together to acquire knowledge, I do not see why they should fail.
Okay.
If they fail, then they have done Ghana a disservice. One thing I would want to urge them is to have a mindset change to achieve greater things for Ghana, the sense of patriotism.
Thank you, Nana Yabachi. Warwi Brown.
Yes, I think that...
And please, let's make the statements, let's make the commentary straight to the point. We have a lot more to do, so let's go straight
Sure.
to it.
So Mozambique, 300 people being killed or losing their lives is a disaster. For me, it's a national disaster. But I must say that Ghana, we're doing well. Some will say that we're 32 years old, we're still young. Young as we are, I must say that young people also do exploits. And it depends on the leadership you have in place. If Ghana had had leaders who took over after 92, if everybody had followed the trend, we would have done better than we are into. But I hope...
What's the trend? In terms
of the trend of
development agenda?
Yeah, development agenda.
Do you have a plan, a national development?
Do we follow that? We do not. We do not. Look at the plunder of state resources and all that. I do not want to go into that now because that's not the issue for discussion. I can give you a plethora for issues. And so I must say that we depending on the leaders, the leadership, the previous administration didn't help us the way we expected. And you can see that from the overwhelming defeat they had. I must say that with the security corps appointments, let me put on record that this government is just barely 9 days old in office, if I'm not wrong. But people measure the government and see if the government is in office for 6 months and all that.
Mr. Warwi Brown, a quick reminder though, I'll allow you to flow, but you know, over the last few days I've heard, oh, we're only 3 days old, we're only 6 days old, we're only 9 days old. Ghanaians know that, they are fully aware, but mind you, 9 days will still soon turn into 3 months.
No, I know.
Would you... Don't fall into the trap of
I'm not falling into... No.
Before you realize it, you are only getting booted
Ghanaians,
out.
Ghanaians might be... I'm not saying that to justify... We are doing well. The point I want to make is that even 9 days old, we have done better than people who have been in office for over 6 months. And that should tell you that this government is poised for action. Sometimes, maybe allow me to flow and make my point. And you see, the appointments that have been made so far, very excellent appointments. And people are complaining. You would see from newspapers or comment by Oseche Mensambosu that we should have waited for 2 weeks for people should bring their views about those to be appointed before vetting takes place. So if I'm talking about 9 days and we have kickstarted this and we're making sure that things are done, putting in the right people, the point I'm making is that we are not wasting time. Right. This government is doing well. And the people who have been nominated to be security corps, Bani, advisor, security advisor, solid man. He's been chief of staff, interior minister. He knows his work. COP Kofi Boachi as a director for operations at the presidency, a very solid, another solid person who could have been at IGPM, maybe one of the best we would have had. And you have a Kipo and Co. doing their work. So for me, this government is poised for action, even though we are just 9 days old. We are doing so well as if with them. That's the point I want to make.
All right, Daniel, Ben, before you come in. Daniel, let's take your quick thoughts on this as well. Daniel, unmute, please. Okay, Ben, I don't think we have Daniel yet, so...
Well, very quickly, there's a message here, though. Selecting ministers from Parliament, I just had to acknowledge, reduces the cost of government as well. The minister takes the same salary. They only have some allowances and certain benefits. And that is Ajura Najo sending in that. Have you taken stock, though, of the allowances and the benefits, the perks you speak of? If you put all of that together, do you know what that means? You know, sometimes when... It's good that you mentioned. It's not necessarily that they are taking 2 salaries. I understand. But have you taken stock of the benefits and the other perks of the job? All I'm saying is if you want them to do work to a certain extent, the quality of work is what I'm looking at. Once you have this dual role and how much of a drain it is to be a member of parliament and how much of a drain it is to be a minister, you fuse the two together, something has got to give. And some part will lose. You remember Osafo Mafu and the infamous bit about, oh, we didn't read the entire thing. There was something they were processing in German. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
The loan that went
do you think from the hair salon, loan were contracting from a hair salon. Do you think if legislators had all the time to look at that, would probably have made such mistakes or gaps? No. And there's even the free SHS bill. We are here without that free SHS bill, having gone through the... I feel that anyway, but that's another matter
let's
altogether.
get into your paper.
Daniel, I hear, is
right.
back. Daniel, you were about to make a point, then we'll come into the studio again.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think it is bad that Africa still is having such challenges where we go to an election and at the end of the election, many people will die. 300 people died just because of the election. This is just unthinkable. It doesn't make sense.
300.
I think we have to learn as Africans. We shouldn't finish an election for us to even lose a single soul. It is not the best. So we advise all political parties across the continent that elections is about showing ideas. Election is about selecting people that will lead. There's no need for us to fight for people to die before someone is elected. Mozambique has inaugurated without the opposition or opposition party. I think that is not the best because looking at what is happening in Ghana, the NPP could have done the same. But because we want our democracy to move forward, that is why we joined the inauguration. You have the opposition leader, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, going to greet the president. And look at the pictures out there. It is just so nice. So I think Ghana, we've done our best, and other Africans should also learn from what we are doing in Ghana. It is so awful that we will finish election and people will die.
Right.
I want to thank the president for him making the proposal that investigation should be done from 2000 or so. People that have died in elections. Yeah. And I'm pleased that it should be everybody. We shouldn't look at it politically. Right. And I know those that have been selected to do that will do the right thing to ensure that people will know that election is not about killing. Okay. So, and then about president appointments to the security bosses. I was expecting that Kofi Boachi, COP Kofi Boachi, will be considered for national security. I was shocked when I heard that he is being sent to the president. But then the power belongs to the president. Because director of operations is only a security boss for the president. His work doesn't go beyond the Jubilee House. So for me, I feel he could have played a more bigger role than where he has been placed. The advisor, Professor Bani also, we know him and then we know his performance. He has been doing well. So for me, I think his appointment is not bad. We are still waiting for the appointment of the Interior Minister and the Defense Minister. I think so far, those that have been appointed are people that are capable, people that will see their work, people that we can attest that they didn't fail when they hold certain position. Okay. We are looking forward that they will do more.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's get into other papers now. Nana Awache, we have Nana Elsapon. We have.
So I have
the
Daybreak.
Yeah.
And the Daybreak, I take two. Mahama pledges to finish uncompleted health projects. And the other one has to do...
How about we do the stories on the front page and then you pick one that piques your interest? And then
that is because all of them have been done already. But the one that has not been done on the front page is Gideon Boako clears air on e-levy and betting task. And I would want to touch on these two because the rest have already been done. With respect to the taxes, and this has to do with whether or not the government should scrap the e-levy and betting tax, and the argument is that it is going to affect our conditionalities with the IMF. And when I heard it was Gideon Boako that was making the statement, I was a bit surprised at him because he was the spokesperson.
I thought his argument was rather that they may repackage these taxes for us and surprise us with, well,
so that is where I'm coming to. So when he was in government, he felt that the e-levy was a way to go, and that if we had taken the e-levy away, it means that we were going to scrub free SHS, and that if we had taken e-levy away, that IMF was not going to be possible. And today he is in opposition, and he's singing a different tune. I have stated from the beginning that the finance minister should advise the president well. The nuisance taxes must go. But if they think otherwise, and they are able to present to Ghanaians the need, all right, they should do it properly.
Okay.
These are too many, there are so many taxes, compounded taxes that we pay that are unnecessary. I mean, I was happy when the finance minister said, and I've been a part of it, that there is the need for us to reintroduce the road tolls. And somebody should be held responsible for all the monies we have lost as a state all these months when we had collapsed all these road tolls. Now, the other one has to do with Mahama pledging to finish uncompleted health projects. That is the way to go.
All right.
He need not to pledge. The point is that it is his responsibility to continue every single project that has been left. They are for Ghana. It's Ghana's project. If we want this country to develop properly, there is a need for us to be consistent and not to waste money. The cocoa routes that were abandoned so many years ago is going to take us so much of money to bring them back. So if he leaves these ones and do not complete them, that is a waste.
Well,
just
he's
like
saying that he's going to, so...
He shouldn't.
Mr. Owi Brown, let's get into your paper then.
Yeah, I have one paper here. I was viewing one.
And gentlemen, a quick reminder, I'm sorry I have to do this. We have about 7 minutes to wrap this segment, so let's go straight to the major stories. This is what? Which paper is this? The Searchlight,
Searchlight.
Right?
I saw something here, say Mahama kills anti-gay bill. I mean, yes. I must say that we should, when we are putting out these reports, we should be very candid with the issues. Mahama never said that the anti-gay bill is not good or it's not right. I think he's trying to say, from what I heard, that if we had taught proper values, or we teach proper values in our institutions, inculcate that into the fabric of society, there wouldn't have been a need for this. That was my understanding. It's like, yes.
I thought he said it died with the 8th Parliament.
No,
it shouldn't be a private member's bill.
And yesterday we delved into that issue.
Please,
what has been misconstrued as
now
kill?
You delve into it. You see, people say kill. He
David,
didn't say so.
David,
the bill
relax.
is not.
It's a conversation.
Oh yeah,
but it's not a.
No. So anyway, maybe I saw in another newspaper. No, maybe another one is oral. I saw the oral where the backbenchers, Parliament, are saying that the oral, nobody should, when they are called upon to appear before them. The oral is not calling people to appear before it. Oral is saying that if you have information which will lead to unravel some malfeasance in state capture, in looting, in corruption, bring it to us. And that's what people are doing. Why are they jittery? Why would it take the backbenchers to what? Come out with a press conference? I thought that loud Appenyo-Makins, Honorable Appenyo-Makins, would have led that protest. If Oral was doing something wrong, I believe Appenyo-Makins would have been the first to rush to court. But you see, I suspect that there are some key figures in the SWAL government who might have done things which would be exposed. So they are finding ways and means to what? Curtail the work of Oral. But I can assure them that the Oral will do its work and make sure that those who have looted state lands, those who have made certain benefits which they shouldn't have, would be exposed and they should be brought to book. Okay. So they should allow Oral to do its work. If we are all saying that there's corruption in the country, they had articulated the point that Mahama was corrupted and so. Now the corrupt man has come to say that let's keep corruption, let's put in processes to make sure that we expose corruption, and they are crying foul.
Okay, thank you. Point
let me bring in Daniel, because I was going to pose a question to him on Oral. And like I espoused earlier today, before our guests joined us, if you have nothing, if you've done no wrong, what do you have to fear? And legality is important, yes, but Oral doesn't have prosecutorial powers. They are not investigating anything. All they're doing is collecting information. Some people have said that the life of Oral ends when the AG is appointed, and whether it's going to be Shraj, the OSP, or the AG, whichever thing must be taken up by them will be taken up. My question to you, Daniel, your party people in Parliament have said that they are boycotting the process. If there's nothing to fear, why are they not opening themselves up to accountability, so to speak? Daniel.
Thank you very much, my brother. Yes, I support my minority with that action they're taking. Number one, we have so many institutions that can do this work. We have the Ghana Police, we have the CHRAG, we have so many other organizations. If anyone thinks that somebody might have acquired a property illegally, the person can be invited to the police, the person can be invited to the NIB, etc. Why should we have a committee set up, a committee that is unconstitutional, a committee that is...
Daniel, how does the committee, how does it interfere with anything you've said so far?
Yes, the committee work is to unravel corrupt issues. The committee is to unravel people who have acquired state land, state properties illegally. The question is it constitutional? When the president was inaugurating this committee,
Daniel, I'm sorry I have to do this, but we don't have that much time, so let me do it. Let me come back to you. Give me a straightforward. You say it is unconstitutional.
He has been elected.
Daniel, relax.
Was not in when the committee was set up.
Okay.
Am I correct?
I'm not even hearing all of what you're saying. My question to you is the committee unconstitutional? What makes it illegal? What part of our law books state that setting up a committee like that is illegal? Can you pinpoint to me?
I am not a lawyer by profession, but all I'm saying is that before the president will commission the committee, was he then the president that had the powers? He has been elected, but he wasn't then inaugurated. So it doesn't give him the powers to even inaugurate such a team for them to go around. In fact,
Daniel,
they are doing now.
Quick correction. It was not. No, I will not allow you because what you said was wrong. It was not set up with any governmental portfolio. It didn't have any mechanisms for salaries to be paid or anything of the sort. It wasn't legal from that standpoint of the state funding it. It was a committee set up by someone who was coming into office. So don't make that mistake of saying that, oh, maybe it was illegal. Hold for me. A lot of miseducation has been put out there. There was no such thing. It was not by the state. But as a president-elect, he put in place a certain mechanism from their end to deal with corruption. Has nothing to do with the state apparatus. Go ahead.
In your submission, you did mention that it is a committee that is to unravel or report issues such as people looting state properties, people looting state money. If that is the case, what's their beef? Going into places, chasing up people, seizing cars, etc. Then, clearly, they are doing what they have not been tasked to do. And that is where the minorities have a problem. If you feel somebody has stolen a state car, all you do is to invite the person. And if they are able to unravel or find out or get an information that, for example, Parker have stolen a land, what they have to do is to report the police so that the police invite me. What they have to do is to invite the NIB for them to invite me.
All right.
I am using, for example, myself, I acquired a land from Ghana East Assembly. They gave me a land for a business, and I did an agreement with them. Then I went to the Lands Commission. They rented the land for me 50 years. They kept beating up my workers on the site. They beat my workers on the site.
Though, if any such things happen, they are illegal and you know where to seek redress. But Daniel, thank you very much. I'll just do the headlines from my papers and then we shall call it a review. The Ghanaian Times, President named security, capos, and that has been delved into. NGO launches initiative to promote access to safe drinking water. This is crucial. And of course, even this morning, Sweetie, in that story where fishermen in some areas are now catching fish that are deformed, that have injuries, and so you can't consume them. Yeah. And partly on the back of Galamsey and the menace that we've known. Exercise restraint. President appeals to travel spots. And of course, he was in Boku recently. Court restrains woman from traveling out with daughter out of country. And Mason in trouble for biting ex-girlfriend's upper lip. Some of these issues, they make for Then the new finder, have basic knowledge of your side hustle business. That's according to Dr. Yamson. Revoke licenses for mining and forest reserves. Ken Ashigbe says so. LI 2462 is still active and it must be dealt with. The erstwhile administration said it would knock it off, but that didn't happen. Staple food items, others driving inflation. The Ghana Statistical Service calls for multi-sectoral solutions to tackle the crisis. And unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. We'll not be able to. Our time has been, we've added time and spent the time, and so there's nothing else. But let's do 10 seconds. 10 seconds, let's go.
Information. You see, as Ghanaians, per our constitution, we have some duties.
4 seconds, go.
All right. Article 41. And you see, oral, they have, if you've seen people come to you to attack your workers, that is not oral. Their mandate was clear. To gather,
we can't even guarantee that these people were tied to
that's
oral.
What I mean.
And that's why I was saying, if that has happened, go to court. You know where to go.
Information.
Seek redress.
To aid the prosecution.
So your point is?
I mean, it is constitutional.
Okay.
Because they are just going about their duties.
Right.
I mean,
quick points.
One, I think you mentioned the Boku stuff. Muhammad did well going there. For oral, if the people who have been approached one way or the other, if they are complaining, they think that what the oral is doing is unconstitutional, they should go to court.
All right. Daniel, 10 seconds. Let's go. Do we have Daniel?
Thank you once again. Thank you once again. I have given you a practical example of what the oral is doing. I'm supporting the minority with a decision. Let us reshape their way of doing things. I think Honorable Kujato is a gentleman that we all know. When the oral is not doing what is expected, we should call them to order.
All right,
and
thank
I'm
you.
saying the point.
Thank you, Daniel. We've come to the end of the news review. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. And I have to thank my in-house guest, Sweetie Abochi, as well. Those who joined us, Nanaya Sapong, he's with the Movement for Change. We also had David Kweku Warwi Brown. He's a lawyer and member of the NDC's communications team. And via Zoom, Daniel Parker, the NPP Greater Accra Regional Secretary. Well, that's how we're capping it off. Stay for sports. Up next. We'll be right back.
For sports and the AM show with me, Haruna Mubarak. We start with the Black Stars because assistant coaches John Pencil and Joseph Lawman are on the brink of being dismissed by the Ghana Football Association. The potential shakeup comes in the wake of intense criticism aimed at the technical team led by Otuado following Ghana's failure to qualify for the upcoming AFCON in Morocco. It is the first time the nation will not be participating at the continental event since 2004. According to Joy Sports sources, the FA is in talks with a Belgian and a Serbian to replace Pencil and Lawman. The move is seen as an attempt to strengthen the technical team ahead of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Chad and Madagascar in March. Now, music and sports are both deeply rooted in contemporary culture, which provides heightened emotional connection to teams and leagues across the world. Black Stars forward Joseph Pencil's love for the art has led him to pursue a career in music. Daniel Cranton tells his story.
Song for the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa, famous for the Jabulani, Vuvuzelas, and for Ghanaians, Luis Suarez and that Asamoah penalty. Hearing that song instantly brings back memories of the tournament, proving how music and sport have had a long-standing relationship for decades, with the two almost inseparable. Athletes use music to calm down, motivate, or even improve performances, while spectators rely on music to enhance their enjoyment of the game. The lives of musicians and sportsmen are also kind of similar, sharing commonalities such as performances before large crowds, extreme followership, and the need to perform at the highest levels over and over. Music and sports truly go hand in hand, so much so that some professional athletes occasionally find themselves venturing into music even while still active. And the examples are plenty. Former Black Stars forward Asamoah Gyan is probably the standout name when it comes to Ghanaian athletes who have pursued a music career in their active playing years. But that phenomenon doesn't look like ending anytime soon. Gyan has retired, but the current crop of Black Stars players has its own music star.
I go by the name KP. It's all about love.
You my one and only, just hold me slowly.
For Joseph Pinso, music has always been his first love.
Yeah, I really loved music when I was really young. I always lead worship when I was young in church. I lead sometimes worship and praises sometimes, So it's something that I really love to. I love listening to worship songs and all this kind of stuff. So it's something that I always wanted to do. But it's not something that I want to do after my career. It's something I love to do.
With the pressure associated with professional football, how does Pinso juggle that with his music career?
I always do it in my off days. So sometimes I do it when we have some few days, like since I didn't come to the national team, that's where I started to record it. So it was 2 times I wasn't present in the national team due to injury. So I used that kind of space for me to fill out what was left. So it's something that I've been doing it really more because I really concentrate on football. But whenever we have some breaks, I sometimes love to do music.
Pinso's music journey has seen him drop close to 10 songs, and records featuring Kweku Flick, Bisakede, and dancehall king Shatawale are in the pipeline. But the LA Galaxy man is also eyeing a collaboration with Black Stars teammate Gideon Mensah, who is also meddling with music.
Gideon Mensah, he's my good friend. We talk a lot. I told him if he has some song, I can also hop in and all these kind of things. If he has something, he can also send it to me. And we are in good terms, so if he's ready, we will do it. But now I think with the calendar, it's a little bit difficult. But whenever he has the time, whenever I have the time, we can always record. But we already talked about that.
2024 ended in a perfect possible way for Pinso, winning the MLS Cup with LA Galaxy in his debut season, and he performed his latest song, Blessing, at the Victory Parade, with teammates and fans enthusiastically singing along. Legendary football manager Arsene Wenger described the sport as an art, and Pinso is proving that 2 different art forms can coexist. For Joy Sports, my name is Daniel Kranting.
Now, Ghana's sprint and 100 meters record holder Benjamin Azamati has made a cash donation of 10,000 Ghana cedis to the victims of the devastating fire that decimated properties at the Kantamanto market. There is more in this report.
We are making sure that the adjoining building.
On the 1st of January 2025 at midnight, this unfortunate incident happened at the Kantamanto market. The fire outbreak decimated several properties, leaving hundreds of traders crestfallen and in despair. As a result, Benjamin Azamati showed his act of benevolence with financial support in an attempt to alleviate the burden of those affected.
On behalf of Benjamin Azamati, we present this cash donation to the victims of the affected fire that ravaged the Kantamanto community. So, on behalf of him, we do this donation to Azamati is domiciled outside the country because of his training and stuff like that, but he's always in the media looking out for, whatever is happening in Ghana. And he reached out to me yesterday about the recent fire outbreak in Kantamanto, and it was one of his wishes to, share his benevolence to the victims that were affected in this ravaging outbreak. So he sent a cash donation to the victims that were affected, and then his condolences and then his support or solidarity with them too. It's very devastating. I mean, if you look at where we came from, I mean, all the structures were bent. I mean, you can't even pick anything out. So it's like they have to start from somewhere. They have to build from somewhere. And you talk of people's livelihood and then their hard-earned money and then all their investments. So it's very clear that, I mean, the fire really caused a lot of damage here, if you could see.
Well, first of all, I want to thank God for the life of Benjamin Ayati. I'm told that yesterday was his birthday, so more or less like a birthday package that is given to Ghana. We thank him for his sense of concern. Actually, a lot of donations, we have received a lot of donations, and this is another one that has come even to help us ameliorate the pressures, financial pressure, and economic pressure that our people are facing. So we appreciate it. We are grateful, so grateful. It will help us in a long way.
Other sporting personalities are also encouraged to show support for the victims. Work has already begun for the reconstruction of the destroyed shops.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. You're still watching the AM show. Now let's bring you AM business. Fire outbreaks in Ghana have become a significant concern, affecting homes, markets, and public institutions, leading to devastating losses. But what has been the state of fire insurance in Ghana? James Eshen is on the beat and has been exploring the prospects and challenges affecting the effectiveness of fire insurance. And he tells us more in this report.
Fire insurance is generally not mandatory in Ghana, but highly recommended for property owners to safeguard their investment and mitigate financial risk associated with fire damage. The insurance is a type of property insurance that provides coverage against financial losses resulting from fire-related damages or destruction to buildings, content, or asset. Over the years, Ghana records thousands of fire outbreaks according to the Ghana Fire Service. The Ghana Fire Service in 2024 said a total of 5,596 fire outbreaks was recorded between January and November. This affected families, properties, and businesses for both the formal and the informal sector.
Millions of cities have been destroyed. So we are pleading for the government, the new elect government that is coming in, to come and assist us. Many of them, the ladies and the women, some of them have been collapsed. They have been rushed to hospital. Some of them have been died. Just what happened right now. You can see the way I'm speaking. Even I cannot speak well. By the grace of God, that me too, my own have not been consumed. So we are pleading. You can see I'm shaking. I've never experienced such thing before.
One of the biggest concerns have been the education of fire insurance across all sectors. The National Insurance Commission over the years has intensified its sensitization and enforcement drive on the compulsory property insurance. But many businesses and Ghanaians say more education is needed.
We need more education on fire insurance. They should find a way to have an insurance policy for some of us. I think insurance is good, and I am not saying this because of the situation I find myself now. I really want more education on insurance, especially with fire.
Na ni nyina ebeboa yen ya se etu se ne yen nyina yete ase ye ne ewo bia nka e bia nka se ne aye di abobo nka e ma ne sa pa me ye bi pa ebi banko a kyerɛ na mete ase yi a ɛbɛboa me nko a de a meye bi pa there be o me boss yenkyerɛ mu yie ma yɛnte ase yie
insurance ne de enka eyeja enka bɛboa yɛn enka ba ne sei anka.
We have been affected, and I wish there is an insurance policy for some of us, but the insurance companies do not want to take the risk. I think an alternative policy will be good for us. Our shops are all bent, and I have to start all over again.
As I affected me, my back to square one. Matsi by market and almost a church and saying. And I'm a cry Matia. Meaning say beer. Was so many or you better me saying, so be your heart as I may be I say. I do manning yet, maybe meaning say better make a say an architect.
Insurance sector players also consider so many factors before insuring a business. But what are these requirements and other considerations?
Fire insurance is an insurance policy designed by insurance companies to provide coverage for damages or loss of properties caused by fire and related perils. So if you have your property and you insure it against fire with an insurance company and there's a fire outbreak, you can as well go to your insurance companies for compensation against any losses that you have suffered as a result of damage to either the property or any asset that you insured. And fire insurance is compulsory in Ghana. Section 218 and 219 of the 2021 Insurance Act 1061 mandates each individual or company to have a fire insurance policy to cover their commercial properties. So if you have a commercial property and you don't have any fire insurance against it, the law can deal with you. So which means if you have a property which you use for commercial purpose, like for a school, for a mall, a recreative center, a financial institution like banks, hospitals and stuff, so you have to ensure that you have a fire insurance to cover such properties. And in purchasing fire insurance, insurance companies will demand for certain details or will request for certain details from the owner of the property before they can issue the policy. Some of the requirements include the name of the owner of the property, the phone number of the owner of the property, the address of the owner, then the occupation of the owner, and also where the property is located is very key in considering the premium that insurance companies will charge. And see that the premium that will be coming from such places are very minimal, so they won't even like to insure such properties. And most insurance are also reluctant because of the inadequate risk assessment data. Insurers currently don't have enough data to rely on in terms of the structured protocols and the safety precautions and the loss history happening around these places. So the lack of data prevents insurance companies from venturing into or insuring properties located in such areas, and also high claim history. Historically, there have been several market fires, and based on the history of high losses recorded as a result of fires, insurance companies are reluctant in insuring properties that belong to these places. And so there is a gap between insurance for marketplaces, and the insurance companies have to close the gap. Insurance companies and the government as a whole have to ensure that they create public awareness, so educating the traders on the importance of insurance, in the importance of fire insurance and why they need fire insurance. When we educate them of the importance of insurance, it will make them understand what they are buying in, and so motivate them to get fire insurance for their properties, and also it will motivate them to put in the necessary risk mitigation measures to ensure that their property is safeguarded.
The Ghana Insurance Association is also worried about the recent devastating fire that ravaged the Kantamanto market and other markets across the country. First, they say it's causing huge damage to several shops and properties. The association says it has made provisions for privately owned businesses to insure their properties regardless of setbacks for the compulsory fire insurance.
What we can alternatively do is that we create a pool, a certain pool from which there is a certain amount that is dedicated as premium, and then a certain amount that will be determined as to whether when there is a disaster like this, then we will definitely get to compensate anyone. But how? How do we fund such a system? Are we going to get government to contribute into that pool? But we are all in this country, we are aware that government, for even their statutory or constitutionally mandated obligations like the District Common Fund, are behind schedule. How are we going to be able to take the fractions and invest them and be able to pay?
All right.
I heard Doctor mention when I was offline that there are issues like we go to where the risk is better. No, we are ready to take risks. We take risks and we prepare for them. At the last disaster in 2015, if I remember very well, which was flood, because fire is completely linked to flood. A lot of reinsurers, both internally and externally, asked insurance companies not to assume any risk around such places. We have gone on and then done pre-loss surveys, recommended risk improvement, which is part of what we do to say that if you're able to do these things and reduce the frequency of occurrence of the losses, we'll be able to grant cover and cover you at the time of need.
All right, Seth.
Unfortunately, as we're having this conversation now, once we finish these discussions, we are all going to go to bed until there's a next fire or there's a next flood or something. But something can be done about it. I sure the insurance industry is ready to support people in times of disaster.
In all of this, what is the role of the Ghana Fire Service?
I would say people's negligence is part. The weather obviously is also part. But people's nonchalant attitude towards fires is a problem. We constantly carry out fire education, but people's reception towards our officers who carry out this education is not something to write home about. So until as a people, we tend to concentrate and change our perception when it comes to fires. Unfortunately, we might be recording fires like that. As a service, we have not reneged on our commitment to protect the good people of Ghana. So even before the Christmas and before the elections, we had constituted this fire safety task force. Again, also, we had come up with the night patrols in market areas. So the only difference is that, as per what the president has instructed, the only difference is that this time around, we are going to mount fire tenders permanently at the markets from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day to be able to protect major markets. But as a service, we've anticipated this. We put our plans in place, and trust me, but for our measures that we have put in place, we would have recorded much more market fires than we have in this past few days.
Talking about market fires, these are the informal sector of the economy, and they also contribute largely to our economy. One concern had to do with fire insurance. Most of these women have little or no idea when it comes to fire insurance. From the fire service, where do you guys come in when it comes to fire insurance?
Well, for informal sectors like this, it's difficult for the fire service to come in with insurance. But where the informal, well, I would say even with the informal, they have shops. So per the requirement, once you're running a pub or you have a commercial building, it's required by law that you have a fire certificate. And most of a lot of regulatory agencies or insurance companies insist that you get a fire certificate as a requirement before you are issued with an insurance. So that is where we come in. So without the fire certificate, then it means, because the fire certificate would prove that you've protected yourself adequately from fire, obviously to reduce the risk of making claims. So once you are running a commercial entity or before you insure, you'd have to get a fire certificate so that it goes to help to make sure that you are putting the right measures in place. So it's about time. Almost, I think it's a requirement. All the insurance companies insist that you get a fire certificate before you are insured.
I've engaged some insurance companies, and I'm being told, looking at the risk involved, like a place like Kantamantu, insuring such a place would be very difficult. And yet, these are the places that seem to be affected most when it comes to these fire outbreaks and all of that. From fire service, do you think maybe there's a need for these insurance companies should also consider maybe having any insurance policy at least to support these women probably starting? Because yes, they may not have a structure, may probably be in a wooden structure, just as what we're seeing in Kantamantu now. But yes, upon my interaction with some of them, I'm being told if there is something of that sort, maybe they could also try and buy some of these insurance. Do you think there's a need for us to also go in for any insurance that could also, or develop an insurance policy that could also support these little businesses?
Yes, it's important to get these insurance for these little businesses. At least it has both its advantage and disadvantage. Sometimes when people feel they have insurance, they can sometimes be careless because they don't make claims. So it becomes a two-sided, a two-edged sword. But then insurance would compel them to also get fire certificates, which would also help in putting measures in place. Because once the insurance company is insisting that you should get a fire certificate, it means that you'd have to get early fire detection systems like smoke detectors. It means that you'd have to get fire extinguishers mounted, and this requirement would even help, even one with fire prevention. And then when there's the risk of fires, it helps to mitigate the cost or the loss that they would have incurred as a result of the fire.
I want some education when it comes to the punitive measures given to especially businesses who have structures and are failing to go in for an insurance policy. Is there any punitive measure if you fail to comply by that?
There's a punitive measure, but sometimes the political will, to enforce some of these punitive measures become a problem. And so I think more effort needs to be put in to make sure that enforcement is ensured, to make sure that people conform to this insurance, because ordinarily we see a lot of this insurance going to the formal sectors but not really in the informal. So I believe a concerted effort needs to be put in place to make sure that enforcement is spread wide.
What is the relationship like considering you and these insurance companies?
The Ghana National Fire Service has a very good relationship with the National Insurance Commission. They helped us with the construction of our forensic lab building. They helped a lot. So we have a good relationship with them, and so day in, day out, we keep having concerted discussions with them on how to improve upon the mutual interest between the Ghana National Fire Service and the Insurance Commission. So moving forward, I believe there's more room for improvement, and I'm hoping that in this new year, more opportunities will be explored.
The Insurance Law Act 724 of 2006 makes it compulsory for privately owned business entities to insure their properties, but many are yet to comply. The law per sections 183 and 184 makes it mandatory for all commercial properties either under construction or completed to have valid insurance certificate. James Echen's report for Joy Business.
The Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, has highlighted the need for local governance reforms following findings from its post-election survey. According to the survey, 75% of respondents expressed dissatisfaction with the efforts of metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies in addressing development challenges. In response, IDEC is advocating for partisan elections at the MMDA level to foster accountability and improve governance. Dr. Emmanuel Akweta, Executive Director of IDEC, made the call during a media engagement at the University of Ghana's annual New Year School.
I think we've seen election of MMDCs without parties, of MMDAs, not MMDCs. Now there have been talk about election of MMDCs, but at the same time, there are also those saying that, look, our parties, if you look at the voting patterns and percentages, we mobilize very highly with parties, not with independent candidates or without parties in MMDAs, okay? So why don't we now look at a situation where we should elect both parties and independent candidates at both levels so that we can develop institutions that would now ensure that the civil service, the local government service are very strong in dealing with what they have as professionals and competencies. And then the parties would also be held accountable.
Dr. Akwete emphasized that partisan elections at the MMDA level will create a more stable work environment for civil servants, shielding them from frequent dismissals due to political transitions.
Party people who would get to be mayors or who would get to be presiding members and so on. And they working with the civil service, which is, or the local government service, which belongs to the state. And they're dealing with people who they cannot sack. They cannot move out. So a whole lot of reforms will take place to strengthen these actors who could then deliver public services in a way that various committees will meet their targets, could also begin to see local economic development. The monies from the common fund would go there. They will be accountable. So
the proposed reforms aim to strengthen democracy, decentralize authority, and enhance citizen engagement in local governance. Reporting for Joy News, Collins Frimpont's report read to you.
Well, let's discuss this further. Emmanuel Akwete is the Executive Director of IDEG, and he joins us right now for a quick conversation. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right. We've read the article.
Volume up a bit because I'm not speaking you so loudly.
I'm sorry.
Volume needs to go up at your end. Yeah.
Mr. Akwete, what are you saying?
I think he's saying he can't hear us so well, and that we should. He was saying we should increase the volume. So.
Right, I'm going to project for you. I was saying that we've read the article, we just saw the story as well, but we have you here. Really, what is the case for this push that... Mr. Akwete, please listen to me directly and not on the TV set. So I want to make the point that what is the case that you're making for us to elect MMDCEs based on partisan lines? What's the case that you're making?
I think we have been electing the president when in last year at the New Year's do, he spoke. He said that his party was committed to electing MMDC not on party lines, okay, without political participation. And we were looking at the situation now where he's been elected president. And the case we're saying, what we're saying is that this debate had gone on for a long time. It divided the country. At one time, we had the NPP government saying, let's do both. And let's do both has also been the advocacy of many civil society organizations, including us. So what we then said was that we've tested the idea of electing MMDAs without parties, 32 years. Or we could go to 36 if we are looking at 1988. And what lessons have we learned? Today we know that political parties are heavily involved in MMDA elections, illegally, unconstitutionally, but we just talk about it and we laugh. So there's a need for us now to look at that experience and ask ourselves, that idea, elect into the executive arm of government, apart from the president, and maybe ministers picked from parliament. Let us do this independent candidate election. But it's failed. Why would you extend something that has failed to the national level, to the chief executive level? What is it going to give us? So what is the evaluation or the research and analysis that says, if it hadn't worked at the assembly level, at the chief executive level, it's going to be super. It's an idea that needs to be tested. whether in a lab, whether in a pilot phase or something. But what we know is that all the objectives that we thought we would achieve by excluding parties from local government elections at the assembly level initially hasn't worked. So what would make the same idea apply at the chief executive level work more effectively, efficiently, and satisfy the needs of voters? If we do not have that, then if there's no feasibility studies after 32 years to clearly show that we can elect MMDAs, they are going to do better, the safeguards are there, the infiltration by parties, all of that has been taken care of, then it's going to be just a disaster. So what we then advocate is that look at party elections. People are mobilized. They go, they vote, they debate, and so on. Why wouldn't we then say that which has proven effective or relatively successful, could we test it here so that the needs of people at the local government area level will be met in a better way than it is now? You know, voter turnout in local elections is very low. For the 32 years, it's been around 34, 35%. In 2021, when CDD did the post-election survey, about 75% of the people they got said, the system is not working. It's not delivering what it should deliver. And so it meant, then what does it mean? Should it mean that if we extended the relatively speaking failed system to the executive level, it's going to change things? So what is pushing or driving this thing? It could be ideology, much more than scientific data on the table. So our proposal then is that, look, women, youth, chiefs, people with a disability, and technocrats were supposed to be the persons that would work at the local assembly level. And so they would bring in a certain capacity that would spur development at the local level.
Right.
It hasn't worked. So what is it that, however, if you look at presidential elections, parliamentary elections, the turnover is so high. It's dropped a bit to 63, 64%, but it could dip further. In fact, what we are seeing at the local level could also happen now at the executive level.
Mr. Kwesi, I think the concern is that, you know, the national level, of course, it's politics, so we are doing that on partisan lines. But if we take it down to local governments, we might actually see deepened polarization or simply over-politicization of, you know, local government work. And if we are going to be electing MMDCEs based on partisan lines, we would just be replicating what we see at the national level at local government. But I do recall that there was a referendum to amend Article 55, Clause 3. You know, that seeks to, you know, pave way for the election of MMDCEs. Do you know what happened? Exactly what the setback was? And is there any plan to get back to that?
I think the referendum had to be called off because of differences. NDC pulled up the last minute,
right.
Okay, 2019. And to amend the specific article you're referring to, 55.3, is a national referendum. 40% of the registered electorate must participate, and 75% should vote yes. It's not an easy thing that one party could deliver. So it calls for consensus, not between the two parties because they mobilize. And our people have shown increasingly that in local elections, even though it's still low, the parties are involved. They finance, their colors are used, except their slogans. I do not think that partisanship will be any as it's used in Ghanaian. It's not a word I really like. You use it. But as you mentioned it, partisanship at the national level or at the local level is so bad that if you open it up at the local level, meaning parties are participating, it will collapse the system. First of all, because the system we are operating does not admit of parties, any institutions that ought to be there to regulate political parties' participation, support political parties, define their relationships with the institutions properly, the civil service, the public services as autonomous. Not all those have not been done. So the problems we are facing is that when parties are coming in, okay, they come also with institutional reforms, with demanding certain capacities. The law is reformed, the constitution makes changes. It's a huge reform that, to a large extent, would guarantee that the dividends that we expect at the local level, whether it's local economic development, whether it's the social development that is going on, and whether enough resources are going there, and so on and so forth, would be clearly different from what we have today. So we've come up with an idea that says, look, why don't we, for instance, approach this thing in a way that we've tested parties at national level, and they compete and work. It works to a extent, even if they're alternate. Okay, so you get the roads, much more than you've ever had. Hospitals, various other economic development projects.
Mr.
They're happening
Kwete,
with parties in rural areas.
right. Mr. Kwete, the last part of my question was whether or not there are plans to return to that referendum or open up this. That's not a good sound to hear. I don't know if I still have Mr. Kwete, but I was trying to get to the point of whether or not they have plans to return to the referendum, open this conversation for broader participation. Because if we're talking about local governments, Ben, it should really come from what we want as the people who this affects, and not just a group of people who propose something and then they just go on ahead and do that. Benjamin Akako.
I mean, it's a multifaceted problem. The layers are many on this, the different sides. I've just been also looking at what Dr. Emmanuel Akwete was saying in 2019, much of which has not changed. But in respect of Articles 2431 and 55.3 of our Constitution, obviously, if we're going to change this, some actions must be taken. The last time in 2019, we were looking at a referendum that did not see the light of day. And so if promises have been made and now push has come to shove, if we're going to bring the change forward, then like we're doing with civil society and with the public, we have to come to some conclusion on this matter. I think nationally, it shouldn't be X party comes and does this, Y party comes and does that. But we have to contemplate what we want as a people. If you look at the Constitution, the preamble, it talks about the aspirations of Ghanaians. So what are we aspiring to? And then we can move from there, which is why I believe in 2019, the NPP had been pushing for that referendum.
But the NDC, they were the ones who didn't come through. But I want to find out from Mr. Kwete. I was asking if there are plans to return to that referendum or open this conversation up for broader participation in terms of we the people, the citizens who this affects. Is there plans to do that?
Well, sorry. Go on, I'm listening.
Mr. Kwete, I'm asking, are there plans for, us to return to the referendum that was set back because one party pulled out? Are there plans to open this up for broader participation from the citizens because we are the ones that this affects? I'm asking in terms of,
plans in terms of the new government has come and said, look, let's go back to it. It is not. In their manifesto, they said, we would like to elect MMDA without participation of political parties. Now they want power. But what we are reminding them about is very simple. There's no research or any scientific work on the table that tells us that if we extended this non-party or whatever election at the MMDC levels, we're going to do better than we've done with MMDA. And that the infiltration of the parties, the caucuses, the two parties and so on, would not happen, and we're going to do, what tells us that it's going to be different than what we've had? We have to do some studies and analysis on that. But more importantly, if we are going to admit parties, it's going to reform the governance structures at the local level. We call it democratization, okay? And the parties being there, although it's illegal, we've closed our eyes, it will be streamlined. Various independence of the local government service and other public services will be very strongly done. The people who will be recruited, and so it's going to turn the whole system around in a way that we're going to see local economic development, accountability. The parties will have to behave within a certain framework. Now, it's not. The monies of the DSTF, District Assembly Common Fund itself, doesn't go that far to bring about development. It's a thing that is more or less spent in Accra and so on. So you've tried something for 32 years. The women, the chiefs, they've all been marginalized. They said the 30% representation appointed by government didn't happen. It's not happening. And you hear a lot of that, people with disability. So the system hasn't worked. Why would you extend it without some real proper studies and analysis and so on to the chief executive, to the executive level in the local area? Are we going to have something different? So we need to overhaul the system. We need to transform the system. And that's the proposal we are doing. Advocacy the president could look at this. He as candidate, he was supporting his party's position. But
okay, you just said, Dr. Akwete, you just said the president will look at it. It means this hasn't reached the table of the president yet, has it?
But we advocate for that to happen. Nothing reaches the table of the president, but we are in a time that it could happen. Because the president said his party at the time would like to elect MMDC. But this demand had been there for years. Throughout the 32 years, that demand had been there. It hasn't been either to. But as he's going to look at that, he's going to open up. He said he will form a committee or an institution that will look at the issues of MMPA elections and how it should be handled or done and so on. So that gives scope. That gives great space to discuss the whole question. And now that he's president, he can't just he wants substance. He wants to transform the country and so on. And we are saying, let us go full democracy. Not only in parliament and so on, but in the executive level. Let parties go into local government. It will prepare them better to take on national roles. And let us see how much money goes. And let us see the accountability. The chiefs and the women and youth and people who are saying, we've been marginalized. We don't have any influence. It's become what we call exclusion. Is the order of the day. If you are not in the party, you'll be excluded. And your needs will not be satisfied. That's why we have no turnout.
Okay.
So we are in a period where the president's ambition is such that he's open to ideas as well, but he's now president of Ghana, not NDC presidential candidate. Now he's taking an oath. He's thinking of all of us Ghanaians. And so it's absolutely important that we continue with the advocacy and for him to look at how he will serve the nation best.
Okay.
By strengthening our democracy, open it up to parties and independent candidates.
Ben, right before you get in, Doc, did you say there's no research to back the claim that this is the best way to go in terms of electing our MMDCs along partisan lines? Is that what you said?
No, along parties. You see, I don't use partisan lines. Partisan is a very...
But did you say that there is no research?
It's a negative, has negative connotation. But what I'm saying is that we have done some work on how parties could enter local government, assembly, chief executive, and with parties, if parties are going in, we will create conditions, or conditions will be created for independent candidates as well. Our institutions will be stronger. Okay, the district assembly common fund will be increased, and it will be monitored.
Doc, the point has been made. I just wanted clarity on something you said about there's no research to back a certain claim. I just want clarity on that. There's no research.
There's no assessment of the excluding parties from assembly elections and what it has yielded. The assessments made so far are brutally negative. Okay, so if there is that which has been practiced for 32 years has not really given us what it is that we wanted, and there are so many problems, why would you extend it to the national, to the chief executive level?
Okay.
Please what conditions would we create so that the performance at that level will be different from what we've had so far? So that's what we are talking about.
Okay.
I hope I'm clear.
Yes, Ben.
To you.
Okay. Dr. Akwete.
So you finished, isn't it?
No,
Hello?
please hold for Ben.
Well, I just have to run one or two things by you. This is Benjamin Akakpo. So we've complained about the zero-sum game in our politics. Beyond the scenario that you're painting, is this the best case scenario? Is it to say that beyond this, there's no other alternative to ensure that development, proper leadership trickles down to the very grassroots? In other words, you are lobbying, just as you did in 2019. Unfortunately, that referendum didn't happen. So how hopeful are you that this current administration will act in this line with this dual, proposal that you have? What's the end game?
Well, you in the work we do, you advocate, you do the analysis, you prove to decision makers what would work and what wouldn't work. I think nobody is saying that the local government system must exist without, officially without parties, is working. The infiltration of parties are real. The fight between the MMDAs, who are appointed by the president and the party in power, with MPs, is affecting the delivery of development at the local level. The former president spoke about it. You may recall after the 2020 elections, when he asked his party to present nominees for MMDA appointment. And they were all, most of them, majority of them, the criteria was how they help with the elections to win the parliamentary and presidential elections. And that was the base. Then when they were appointed, which is something that didn't happen only in 2022, but happened throughout the Fourth Republic, the conflict between MPs and then chief executives was not helping the president, even in his first step, to deliver what he wanted to deliver around the country. So there are real issues. The system has been tested. It's not working. If you added parties, would it then, in the way we've seen it at the local level, is it going to improve the system or not? And so these are things that it's our responsibility to bring it up, to also engage the president that, Mr. President, you said this and that. That was for your party. But you're president now, head of state, head of government, father of the nation, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Everything, the whole thing's taken, is serving the whole of Ghana. Ideas would find space where he said, if we produce the evidence that even in the experimental phase, in the projected, test the idea and see, it is going to be better that parties are coming in, because it's not something that will happen immediately. They're going to set up a whole lot of institutions that would really show that civil servants are not controlled by parties, are not interfered, their work is not interfered or fired and so on. And there will be other institutions. For example, funding of parties and also scrutinizing where they get their funds would be a very important thing on the table. And the rules would be enforced on that, plus many other things. So we started the advocacy in 2012, 2014. We've continued with it. And we are just telling the president that the local government system can be reformed. But parties have to be strengthened. Parties learn how to govern in local governments. That is a universal principle.
Right.
So in places like Netherlands, if after elections, the king would allocate local government to elected leaders or parties. And that's what they say is that they learn how to govern at the national level by starting it at the local level. So local government is extremely important to the efficiency of politicians and also the state's prioritization of what needs to be done to improve conditions of living and the prosperity of the people.
Doc, so we've seen
parties out of it for so long. It's not only under the Fourth Republic. It happened with Kwame Nkrumah, one-party state. It happened with the military, and so on. So we've been excluding parties all along, and it's not giving us what we want. Just electing MMDCs is not going to. It's an administrative thing, to a large extent. It's not going to really transform. We want transformation and quality of development and life.
Right. Doc, just to follow up, we have seen instances where people have gone through the mill, starting from the very grassroots and risen to top leadership positions in government. But if this proposal is not accepted, would that be a wrong move? Would it be a step in the wrong direction?
I think the citizens are speaking. You know, people are talking about marginalization. They're not also getting their development goods at the district level, at the regional
Pardon
level.
my interjection. Pardon my interjection, Doc. But when you say the citizens are speaking, let's remember that in 2019, the NPP did not go ahead with the referendum because there was the inkling that they would lose at the polls. The same people. Which people are you referring to?
You're wrong. To do a referendum, it's a consensus-based thing. Okay, no one party, if one party has all the numbers in parliament, like now, and they also could persuade Ghanaians, all Ghanaians, that this is what we want to do and so on, that would be a different situation. But there was a consensus. When NPP, and then I know a lot about this because I was involved in that, at the end, NPP pulled out. Our current president, as leader of the NDC then, was very active and supportive of opening local government to parties. But it will come with a whole lot of institutional reforms, budget reforms, and so on, before that very election takes place. He, however, had to call it off because of opposition from within powerful segments of his party, who had a different interpretation of what was happening. And that's what happened. We were getting close to elections. They were focusing on presidential and parliamentary. But it hasn't killed the idea. The idea is so powerful. It's very potent idea that we want to see development in our districts, in our local government areas. We want an inclusive democracy. So, way forward, we have proposed that the president should consider setting up what we call a multi-party democracy and constitutional reform commission, amendment commission. That body should then be empowered to test these ideas on the table. Because in developed countries, they don't implement ideas that have not been tested. It's like in a lab and so on. The Scandinavia, I will tell you, nothing is implemented unless it's been put on trial, on a trial basis. It's like, you know, whatever it is, they'll put it to test and see how it works before they implement it. Here we just take on an idea and then we said it will work, and it's not working.
Right.
Our democracy is slowly getting into crisis. Look at the turnout even at the national level. It's dropped to 63-64% according to Codeo. But we've been one of the highest, 70%, 75% average for the last 32 years. So, my brother, we are talking very seriously about how to deal with the transform system to satisfy the needs of our people.
Right.
The frustration is real. We can do that.
My final bit to you, I mean, I was asking about the different routes we could take to get there, because in other countries, they have, of course, different political systems that allow for, multi-party proportional representation, among others. But there's a bit of the question you did not answer. How hopeful are you about all of this, that indeed this administration just might tip that way?
Yes, I like the hopeful thing. I'm extremely hopeful and optimistic that sustaining the campaign will bring about change, because the existing systems and whatever they are introducing are not working. It's making the situation worse.
Right.
So, but hope is not just the faith one. The hope is based scientifically on knowledge. What has worked? How have parties been in local and central government in situations where you have prime minister, and then, in parliament, the position is there, but in local government, the parties are there. The UK does that. So parties working with governing opposition parties and governing parties, being in the executive, is not something new. It's been tested all over, and it's working. So the system we have, some people, a lot of countries, Kenya inclusive and so on, went for studied local government reforms from Ghana. Kenya, after their violence, has opened the country up. And the rate of development and the levels at which their regional level, different parties are in charge. The mayors come from different parties. And you could see how the competition goes and the development goes. Here, we are stagnant, and we are going down. Our party numbers this time, the election numbers, should worry us. because they're saying the system is not working.
Okay.
And it's not inclusive. It's polarized. And the parties themselves are not able to deliver what they promise very much. So we can change the system peacefully, and we are one of those advocating for that to happen. Not violence, not war or anything. We can bring better results and happiness to every Ghanaian.
Well,
if we did the reform.
Well,
are you okay?
Some reforms we would need, but thank you. Barring any other questions, thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, for joining the conversation, I should say. He's Executive Director for the Institute for Democratic Governance, and that has been an interesting beat. Just to cap it off, what do you see moving forward? Do you think this will pass muster?
I honestly think whatever proposals that the president is receiving in terms of how to handle local governments will carry more weight if it has the voices of the people in there. So maybe
that was why I was trying to put to him the bit about 2019. I disagree.
It is us, after all. So our voices need to be taken into consideration before any proposals are tabled before the president. Well,
but some of these CSOs as well, you know, it's like the crystallization of some of these thoughts over time. What I don't know is whether if we were to go to a referendum today, the vote would reflect this kind of thinking. He made mention of something important. It would also mean a change in so many of the dynamics in terms of our local governance, which would come with cost as well. Are we ready for that ahead of the next local government elections or the local government, you know, appointments?
In fact, commentary around the time that the president revoked the appointments of all these MMDCEs, the commentary coming from the side of the NDC was that they're trying to restructure how we actually, you know, treat local government. So maybe, just maybe, this is something that, in fact, it'll be lovely to hear what you have to say about this. In fact, let's put the phone lines on the screens right now. Call us and tell us what you think. Whether or not MMDCEs should be elected along party lines, whether we should be electing them at all or maintain the appointment bit, the way we've done it for 32 years now, which Dr. Akwete is saying hasn't augured well for us yet. So call us and let's hear what you have to say about it. Benjamin, if we went for a referendum, where would you be? What would you say? Along party lines or just elect them, whoever is interested?
I was saying this morning that it's a catch-22 situation. Right now, I can't really, because it's dicey. You can choose one or the other, but what are we hoping to get from that one or the other? What mechanisms would we have to put in place to ensure that they function properly? Because look, there are so many things we've attempted doing, some of what we've done, and still practically nothing changed. I'll give you a typical example in terms of devolving governance. We said we're creating extra regions, right? And that would also help certain places develop more, give them more attention. If I were to ask ordinary Ghanaians, has that really panned out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's talk to Abdul Ganiu calling us now. Abdul Ganiu, thank you for calling us. And good morning. What's your take on this matter?
This is Abdul Ganiu calling you from Bankarwood, Savannah region.
Okay.
Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers out there and my senior brother. I always enjoy your program. I think the elections of our DCs and MCs, I think it's good to be voted, but when you come and see even confirming them to be members of the various districts, to lead the district assembly, in my opinion, I think it is already voted. They are voting it. Because the people that we voted at our various electoral areas, representing us within the electoral areas as assembly members within the area, they will go and confirm them as MMDC, DC or mayor or MP. So for me, I would have just wished that if we give the chance to the president to be appointed, but if they appoint them, Farage is going to be the people who are representing us at our various electoral areas to go and confirm them. You then
Wow.
Why not? But if you see that the person cannot do the work for the various districts, you can reject that person. That is my opinion, because we are voting the assembly members to go and represent us at our various electoral areas. So I think that we should just leave it like this so that the members of assembly can be making the decisions for us. Thank you.
Abdul Ganiu, thank you so much for calling us. Ben, you know the gap here is that we're actually not backing any of these with concrete research, right? If we had research, the data to show that, okay, if we went this way, these are the possible outcomes you get, and then if we went the other way, these are the possible outcomes, then maybe it's an easier decision to make.
In some ways, there has been some research on these, and I think even either the Afrobarometer or some others have posed questions related to these in the past and got different responses. What we cannot say for certain is where exactly Ghanaians are leaning. For me, in the end, it must be clear. It mustn't be something that must be partisan. It must be something that must be national in outlook, and you cannot get everybody towing one line. But we must have as many people as possible, which is the idea of a referendum anyway. More than 50% moving in a certain direction. But beyond that, it is one thing saying, let's do this. It's another thing being able to actualize it, ensure that practically it serves its ends. And that's where my worry is, because we have a lot of policies, we have a lot of laws that were meant to deliver X, Y, Z, and are not delivering those. So in the end, it's not a hard and fast either or situation for me. It's about if you're changing this, it's like the Americans say in their English, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we feel the system is broken now, what is the alternative? And will the alternative fix or cure what we feel is a problem now?
Good question.
I don't know.
Let's speak to Eric from Abekan. Eric, good morning. Thanks for calling. What do you say on this issue?
Good morning, Sweetie and Benjamin.
Hi.
I hope you guys are doing well.
You're fabulous.
Fine.
Yeah, I want to just add my voice to my opinion on this very matter. I believe I support the MMDC. If were to be elected, I think it would have gone a long way. You know, each year each day has its own issues. We kind of we allow the leaders to be electing, and the assemblymen voting for them. On the view that if once the country has gone far from that, if we can be on a partisan line by way of voting, then I think I appreciate. And I also urge, there's something that I want to touch quickly. I want to urge my fellow youth to be the expectation on our leaders. We need to slow down on this, you know, even though we need to make sure they are accountable to us by our expectations, you know, at least, even though with everything said and done, Ghana, at least we've made strides, you know, we've made a lot of strides here when it comes to governance and everything. So let's all come together and help grow our country. I think, yeah, that's the least I can share this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric, for calling. Maybe we have time for one more caller on this, but so far it looks like no one is vehemently opposing the idea that we shouldn't elect MMDCEs. I think, for whatever it's worth, it helps them to be answerable to us because we voted you into power. Does it? I think so. You know that if you don't deliver on the mandate for which we put you there, we might vote you out of power. And so when we ask you questions, you better have some good responses for us, I think, if we are the ones putting you in power.
Well, it may be a better layer because now at least what we have is that the executive president would then give nominees or make appointments, and then at the grassroots, these partisan groupings will then decide whether or not they approve. And in the last administration, in some cases, it became comical because a selection would be made and the people would reject the person. And then there was the exchange of money. And then that famous incident where someone said, I gave you people money, you didn't vote for me, so give me my money back, with the OSP wading into it. That may be an extra layer, but I am still being cautious because I don't know whether that will cure the malaise we are trying to deal with. So let's see when we get a lot more information on the different proposals on the table. And I think we should hasten slowly on this matter and not, after all, we've had a long-standing system, bad as it may be. If you want to change, ensure that the change you are making will deliver, if not 100%, maybe 70, 80% of what you aspire to. Then it is proper. I'll link it to what you were sharing in the morning about the NDPC, National Development Planning Commission.
Yeah.
How long have we had it?
Yeah.
I remember I've interviewed Professor Ade, I've interviewed the late, may his soul rest in peace, Abrampa, Dr. Abrampa, among others. All of these people have lamented to varying degrees how the NDPC, for example, is handled on a partisan level. So we have the right thing in place, but it's not working. Because you decide and then an administration comes into power and does whatever it pleases.
Just diagnose the whole problem with Ghana then, because we have good policies and programs, it's just implementation. Let's speak to one of our callers from Kaswa. Please tell us your name and what's on your mind this morning.
My name is Rutherford Benson Budon.
Rutherford, thank you for calling.
Yes,
what do you say on this issue?
Well, I think the suggestions that are coming on board is very good. And if we elected our MMDC, they will be more accountable to the people. And I also think that since there's a government in place, with the MMDCs will be able to work towards the agenda of the government to help the community to develop their community, that would be the best. Because I see them to be, if we elected them, they will be more accountable to the people. And if there's anything, they should be able to explain the reason for which there's certain things they couldn't do it. But because it is being appointed by the government, if your party is not on power and you are the MP, and then MLDC is appointed, it will take all the developmental projects and try to come to Parliament as an MP. So they always politicize everything. So for our state to be in a good condition, I think we need to shift the MMDCs from the partisan politics a bit, even if it will be for the local development, for the local people, and to be indigenous for the local people, so the local people will hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling, Ben. And just two quick thoughts. You know how elections get really serious and sometimes violent, eh? I'm just hoping that, when we do decide to elect MMDCEs, we don't experience that same level of violence and aggression with which we attach to our elections.
I have a message here from someone who is saying his fear is that the monetization, the monocracy we've created at the national level would filter down to the local level.
Yes, and then local officials tied to party lines would prioritize, fulfilling party objectives and making sure that their party people, are getting more benefits than the other people. And then by the end of the day, the very problem we are trying to fix will probably escalate. I understand. Reverend Father called us, but we were unable to speak to you. Please, if you are still watching and listening to our scholars, maybe we spend some 2 minutes with you and then we wrap up this segment of the conversations on the AM show. Mr. Kako.
Well, the conversations will go on. It's good.
Oh, we have someone on the line.
What's your name, sir?
What is my name?
Yes.
Oh, my name is Kwame.
Kwame, where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Awoshi, Accra.
All right, go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay. What do you want me to do? Just go ahead and tell you what I think?
Yes, just go ahead and tell us.
I think, the election of MMDC is the best, to be honest with you. It will take away all that responsibility in terms of who to account for. And I agree with that lady who has already made up her mind. I mean, your co-host. But Benjamin, you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much. But there's a quick one. It's one thing to elect, but some people are proposing elections, yes, but not on a partisan basis. And others are saying elect on a partisan basis. So which one are you opting for?
Not on a partisan basis, no.
Okay.
Not on a partisan. Anybody can just jump in but we have to be very, very careful, because if you do it not on a partisan basis, it's going to be a whole lot of people. So we have to be able to say that, hey, we're going to have just only 10 people for every MCD election, because you don't want to have 20 people contesting for just one position. So that is where we have to be very, very careful. The number of people we let them in terms of contesting. That's where I have a problem.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're grateful you took the time to call us this morning. So he says he's for elections, but not on a partisan basis. You see, we are getting different reactions. And trust me, this is what we need to do. Maybe even have some town halls on this from government's end, not just committees and the rest. Come, let it trickle down. What are the people saying? And then when we are able to crystallize what the thoughts are of the people, that way, when you move ahead with it, you know that you have the backing of the people, which is part of what was the foible of the NPP in 2019 when they wanted to go ahead with this. Typical, it's an idea, we think it will work, but were the people for it? And I stand by what I said. If you look at the optics at the time, and part of why the NPP decided, of course, with the EC to back out of that, I believe their own research from what we had heard and seen was pointing to the fact that people were not going to vote for it, and it would be an embarrassment to the administration then.
Let's go to Kumasi now and speak to Apia. Apia, good morning. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Please, what I have to say is, you see, the election about the MMDC is about assemblymen and women. So maybe if the person belongs to, is affiliated to NPP, and then he's an assembly member, if you don't give the person something, madam, forget, they won't vote for you. They will pull your legs, especially in the dominated areas of affiliated assembly members who belong to the opposition party. You will pay. And do you remember what happened in Jabin and some other places for the recent election? So we should tackle that situation. Else, any money that we give you for, like, to them for development, they will use that money to cover the money that they pay to them in the assemblymen. So let's talk about that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we have spoken about it, which is why we're talking about money at the local level and the system we have as it is. So that indeed, if we are not careful, we'll just create another layer of moneycracy in our democracy.
Something you said and something he said makes me want to make the point that maybe that's another way to fix the apathy that clouds district level elections. You know, people don't think that they're as involved, and so they don't even care to go out and go and vote anyway, because at the end of the day, you're not answerable to me. You know, so maybe if we carry the citizens along with this, town halls, like you're saying, referendum, maybe, we get the sense at the end of the day that we are part of the process. We'll go out and vote. And all these issues of apathy and nobody's turning out to vote, maybe we can help fix those issues. Is this our last caller? Who's on the line? Good morning. Eric from Kumasi. What's on your mind?
Yes, please. We will be deceiving ourselves if we say we are going on non-partisan basis. Why am I saying this? Currently, the laws on district assembly says district assembly elections is supposed to be non-partisan. But on the grounds, it is not so. They do it on partisan basis. So I suggest that now we should elect MMDCs, all right. But it is more of a job for the boys. So to kill or to let election come in, let us allow people within the same party to be nominated for elections within the same party, so that the job for the boys aspect will be tackled. But the people who have the option of selecting the best out of people from within the same party. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for calling. And I think that we should be winding down on this conversation.
I guess Ghanaians have spoken. In the end, we offered them the opportunity. They've shared their thoughts, and we have to do this on a larger scale and get more people involved. And then we can shape our democracy from there. Once we decide, then we move along with it, bearing either the consequences or the fruit, enjoying the fruit of it.
Well, you want to stay with us? This is not the end of the show yet, and you know that. We're back in a bit with more action on the AM show.
Attorney General designate is a law professor. When approved, he is going to be the chief enforcer of our laws. When he appeared before the committee and was asked about the legality of this aura, he justified it. He justified the unconstitutional establishment and putting together of people who go about harassing former government officials. We believe that the establishment of that oral committee violates and flies in the face of our constitution. And so one would have expected that a law professor in the person of Dr. Ayeni would have condemned it. But rather, he justified it. Now his justification is now putting the work of the police CID, IOCO, and special prosecutor, and constitutionally established bodies out of business. It is concerning, and we want the people of Ghana to know that no serious country will entertain anything such as this. And so if you are a former government official and you're invited by this so-called aura, our advice to you from the minority is to boycott any invitation from the aura team. We are not going to be part of it because we believe that there are constitutionally established bodies that can investigate any so-called misdeeds of the government. What are they doing? What they are doing is to go about disturbing people, entering homes, taking vehicles, seizing vehicles, and more or less taking over lands from people who have genuinely purchased land.
Well, there you have it. Let's discuss this further. Ben and I are here to steer the conversations because the minority in Parliament calling on former government officials to boycott any engagements with the Operation Recover All Loot, that is the oral team. And they're arguing that the operations are unconstitutional and a violation of Ghana's legal framework. We'll discuss this in a minute. Benjamin, you want to bring in our guest?
Well, we have John Darko, who's a member of parliament for Swami, that famous constituency, of course, in the Ashanti region. And we also have Martin Kwebu, he's a legal practitioner. Both of them joined the conversation. But before I come into the studio, let me just check. Mr. Kwebu, can you hear me, sir? All right. Mr. Kwebu will join us shortly. Congratulations, first of all. Big shoes you are filling. Former majority leader, and now you are stepping into those shoes. How do you feel?
Well, thank you, and greetings to your viewers. Yes, of course, big shoes. Indeed, I've been reminded of this so many times. I remember during the inauguration, anywhere I pass, once my name is mentioned as an SMP of Swami, they will ask me, oh, wow, I sure you can fill the shoes. And so I get that a lot. He has played his parts. I'm talking about the former majority leader and former MP of Swami. He did a good job. I always say, from a grateful constituency, we thank him. A grateful nation, we thank you. We thank him. He dedicated 28 years of his life to us as a parliamentarian, and so I am grateful. I always say that I don't think that I'll be judged immediately by the standards of Osei because he was there for 28 years.
Right.
I'm just less than 2 weeks old in the job. But
you're already stirring controversies. And
but you'll get there.
Yeah.
Well, little by little, as they say, apoko. I think that is about service. If the focus is served, you don't care about the repercussions. We intend to serve our community and serve it well. We have a party to also, as it were, protect. And we'll do everything in our power to protect our party, protect our people, and ensure that we get the best out of everything.
Okay.
So yes, I thank Honorable Osei Mensah for his service to the nation. I will do my best to represent the constituency he left very well.
We wish you all the best in that endeavor. But let's come to the meat of the matter, the substance of the conversation. Oral.
Yes.
Operation Recover or Loot.
Yes.
I just want to start with an interesting question. What do you understand by this whole concept of oral and what is being done? What is your understanding of it?
Well, so my understanding is that the president has set up a group to collect information. That is what I understand that to mean. But for me, it's not even so much about what I understand. It's about the legal basis for setting up that body in the first place. The president, at the time he set up this body, who was he? When did he set this up, sweetie? He set this up
when he was president-elect.
When he was president-elect. Now, we are a country of laws. We work within the Constitution and our acts of Parliament and all the subsidiary legislation. Whoever, maybe Martin and the rest can point out to me, which of our laws give a president-elect the power to set up committees to investigate people? Which of our laws?
Let me turn that to you. Is there any law barring a president-elect from setting up a committee?
There's no law allowing any...
Is there a law barring a president-elect?
So if you are not expressly given, it means that you are expressly excluded.
Was this
because
committee...
you see...
No, I want us to take it step by step.
Yes.
You say there's no law giving power to
yes.
a president-elect to do this. I was asking you, is there any law giving... taking away or barring a president-elect from doing that?
So that's what I'm saying.
You've not been able to answer me.
That's what I answered, that in our constitutional and our interpretation of our laws, okay, the expressio unius principle, when the law has not expressly given you an authority, it means that that authority has been expressly taken away from you. So the Constitution and the Transition Act, at least the two most important laws regarding the transition period, has not given a president-elect any powers. He doesn't have any power at all. When you are president-elect, you are just like you and I. No power to set up.
At any rate, we can say it is a gray area. We cannot state categorically that he doesn't have any such powers because, like I said, it may not state categorically that he can do this. It doesn't state categorically that he can't do it. In fact, if you look at President-elect Trump, have you noted some of the actions he's taken and certain moves that have been made in the interim? It's on the 20th that he's going to be inaugurated.
Exactly.
But certain things have been done already. They may not have been done as the POTUS, President of the United States, but they are activities that have been kickstarted. Once he takes over, they continue from there.
You see?
So I do not know how you understand, and that is why I started with how you understood oral. Yes. But let's look at it.
But let me
legally speaking, let me add this. Let me add this, and then you can go ahead. Legally speaking, this was not a committee that was set up in terms of state channels or governmental channels because his party was not in government. Okay, it was not drawing on the public purse. You do remember that they made mention of the fact that they were not even going to be paid
that's what they've said.
Anything.
That's what they've said.
Do you know anything to the contrary?
They are traveling to Kumasi, I'm told today. We should ask them who is sponsoring all the travel.
Do you have any evidence to the contrary?
But we should ask them.
No,
who is
I'm asking
that?
you. You are making proposals. Do you have any evidence to the contrary? Maybe that will show that they were using, money from the state.
It will come out soon. It will come out soon.
Okay.
The point I'm making.
So how do you respond to this angle? They are not drawing from the public purse. Okay. There was no executive instrument or anything setting up anything. All they said was, we're going to collect information. Members of the party and some other people known to be anti-graft campaigners, among others. We are setting up this group. Let them look at these matters. Let the public come through with information. Practically, that is everything they are doing. Okay. They are not prosecuting. Okay, they are not investigating.
Okay, fine. So what has happened is that, have you seen them going to people's homes, lands? At least recently there was a video. They had gone to somebody who was building. They had gone to them to stop them from building because, in their view, that land belongs to a state. Have you seen that?
Is it the NIB situation?
Okujato, Ablakwa, and they went to somebody's home, somebody's land. They stopped the person from building. You haven't seen that?
I haven't.
Okay, so these people are out there okay, without any authority, without any power, harassing people, going to homes of people, asking them to bring their car, going to places, stopping people from building because in their view they have the power. Look, today, like I told you.
No, hold there for me.
Yes.
I want us to do this slowly because today we spoke to Daniel Parker. I'm sure you know him. He's a member of your party, regional secretary, I believe. Greater Accra. And he made an allegation about some people who had gone to, I think, some land, sweetie, belonging to him or something of the sort. And I asked him for details and whether there was any correlation with oral. In other words, is it the oral team you know for sure that did this? You know for sure, the allegation you're making, that is the oral team that did this.
That is them moving around on people's land. You have your own video showing they've gone onto people's land, stopping them from building because the land belongs to government.
If I may.
Now, what authority do they have to do that? If you are set up to just collect information, okay, what business do you have going to these places?
You mentioned that they're harassing people, but if you say they were set up to find information or collect information, what they're doing, going to the ground to see for themselves what's happening and asking people to stop so that they can ascertain the legality of the ownership of these properties. Is that not collection? But even before you come in, I took the time to find some provisions supporting the committee and provisions challenging the committee's legitimacy, right? And you started from I'm not a student of law like Ben, but this is what is in the Constitution. Article 35, Clause 8 states that the state shall, quote, take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and abuse of power. 1. Article 36, Clause 1 obliges the states to ensure the efficient management of the economy and public resources. 3. Establishment of investigative bodies. This article Article 278 empowers the President to appoint a commission of inquiry into matters of public interest, right? Now, what oral seeks to do, is it not in line with gathering information so that where we have mismanagement of public funds, where we have looting of state properties, where we have misappropriation of funds, are these not provisions that support a team to collect information so that we can...
And I'm happy you said you are not a student of law. And look, if you listen to my first point, it will tell you that all these things, okay, don't apply.
They don't apply.
Because at the time he set up the committee, he wasn't the president. He didn't have the power to set up the committee. If the president had set up this committee after 7th January, our argument would have been different.
He had been declared, like Ben said, grey area. He had been declared as president-elect of the Republic. And he didn't employ any legislative or executive instrument. Simply saying that these are the people I've handpicked to go out there, ask people to bring us information. I'm just asking for clarity.
John Darko, you're still not, at least from where I sit, able to convince me that there was any illegality in this.
Well, I mean, you can choose to understand it or not, but the point is very clear.
No, I'm asking based on the face of the law.
Yes,
it's the law you purport to use, and I'm asking on the face of the law. Convince me that
a president-elect, president-elect. You see, the provisions you read is for a president to do that. A president-elect doesn't have any power to do that. You were mentioning the POTUS. Look, he's making nominations and all of that. They can only come into effect after
my final question to you before we bring in Martin Kpebu.
January.
Was he constituting this committee as president? He was not constituting the committee. He was not.
So what is the legal basis? You see, that's the point. There has to be a legal basis. You have to have the power as a president.
Would it have been better?
A committee.
Would it have been better, okay, if he had said, "I am president-elect. When I do take over the reins of government, I want us to delve further into corruption. So I am selecting a group of people, some from my party, others ordinary people.
All of them from my party. State it clearly. I mean,
I cannot corroborate that these are not card-bearing. Okay. Have you seen Martin Kpebu showing his NPP card? You don't want to go there. But let's say he did that and say, okay, so these are people, some ordinary citizens, some members of my party. and I am putting them together to start gathering information. Would that have been better?
No. You see, you only...
Because technically there's no difference.
No, you only act and set up a valid and effective committee and legal committee when you are the president. Okay? Now, the people could have started working after 7 December and probably our stance would have been different.
Okay.
But the people started acting when we were in the transition period.
All right.
They were moving into homes of people.
Right.
And they were moving. And you said you didn't see, and you haven't seen anything. You saw them. They had gone to somebody's land. They had stopped them. What authority do they have?
And Sweetie was asking whether that wasn't part of information gathering. But let's bring in Martin Kwebu. Mr. Kwebu, good morning.
Is that Kaku? Yes, sir.
I hope you're well, sir.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Long time no see.
Straight question to you. Is oral legal?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. Oral is very legal. But it's okay. Yesterday I was on a top story with Lawyer Daku, and I'll repeat the same thing. You see, the questions the NPP are asking, they are good for us in a democracy. They help the discourse. Because I keep repeating that Plato in the book Republic says that Socrates says an unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined life is not worth living. So, I mean, fast forward, in political discourse, we say that citizens should ask questions. Citizens should ask leaders questions. So it's fine. Mr. Kapo, if we go straight to the Whistleblowers Act, you will find a very tall list of persons that crimes and other impropriety can be reported to. That list is not exhaustive. So I'm surprised, but not too surprised. It's normal, politicians will have to try to, push their position. So it's okay. We're saying that, look, within Act 720, the Whistleblowers Act, you will see that when you see a crime, you are allowed to report to your MP. Let me even start with the other persons who are not even in public service. When you look at it, it says that you can report to your head of family or any elder. It's a couple, let's repeat. Report when you see a crime. Our law says that you can blow the whistle with your head of family or any principal elder in your family. And apart from that, you can also do it with the head of your institution or MD of your company. They didn't say only public company. So I want to start with those ones because yesterday, when I tried reading out the list on Top Story, there wasn't enough time for us to read all. So let me go straight to the ones, apart from IOCO, police, Attorney General, ministers. I want you to see how private sector and ordinary citizens are involved in law enforcement. Ordinary citizens, private people, you don't have to be a public officer. So Section 3 of the Act 720, the Whistleblowers Act, it says that a person to whom or institution to which disclosure of impropriety may be made. So subsection 1. Disclosure of impropriety, and please, it includes criminal offenses, may be made to any one or more of the following. A, an employer of the whistleblower. So, Mr. Kapo, you are allowed to inform Mr. Kwesi Chum and other people. The employer, they didn't say it must be only public office. Then let me jump. So you find police officer, attorney general. I don't want to read all. I want to go straight to the private sector people. K, you can report the crime or any other impropriety you've seen to a chief. Then L, the head or an elder of the family of the whistleblower. The head of family, the head or an elder of the family of the whistleblower. So that is it. You see, this ties in with Article 125 of the Constitution, which says that justice emanates from the people. And so people are allowed to participate in the justice system. So it's okay that Mr. Adaku is raising questions, but we are also answering. If you have time, or I refer to you to Article 125. You can read it. You see that's why citizens are allowed to be jurors and then assessors, etc. So please, helping in fighting crime or helping to bring about justice in our society is not limited to Iyoko, the police, and OSP. No. If that's what Mr. Adaku is pushing, no, that's not it. Now let's go back to our history. You also find that when President Kufuor was in office, he set up the Office of Accountability. The Office of Accountability. It's like Adaku saying that at that time the police didn't exist. At that time the police were not functioning when President Kufuor set up the Office of Accountability, and we all lauded him that was an effort for to fight corruption, because he set up that Office of Accountability at the presidency and told citizens to come and report acts of corruption and other abuse of office. Where was Lawyer Adaku when President Kufuor set up the Office of Accountability? Where was the whole of the NPP? Didn't we all applaud President Kufuor for setting up the Office of Accountability? Iyoko was present. Iyoko was in existence when the Office of Accountability was set up. The police service was in existence when the Office of Accountability was set up, right? And then the other Shraj, etc. So it's okay. Lawyer Adaku is asking the questions and we are answering. And so now we are answering. You can see that this at least a reasonable answer to him.
Right. Martin, are you inviting people? Do you have constitutional backing to invite people? And are you, in fact, inviting people to bring you information? Are you, interviewing people? Are you doing that?
Okay, let's separate them. Yes, there is an invitation to the public that if you want to blow the whistle, come. And that is what I've read a lot to you. So you can invite.
But are you taking the initiative to actually reach out to people and say, come because we think you might have information or we need to ask for clarity on something? Are you doing that? Because yesterday in the press conference, he did say that you should boycott those invitations. So I want to clarify if you're actually inviting people and if you have constitutional backing to do that.
Yeah, so let's go over this. No, the invitation they are talking about is when you invite suspects. You see, so they are talking about, let's say, if you invite Afenyo Markin that he should come before the oral committee to be asked questions.
Exactly. Are you doing that?
That's ridiculous. We will not do that. Afenyo Markin knows that I'm a lawyer. I mean, come on, I'm a lawyer. So why would I do such a thing? That's not the kind of invitation it is. So the one you are asking, but your question, your question was asking about, are we inviting citizens to bring information? That one, yes. That's the one I read a lot to you, that the president set up the committee and said, listen, what was the basis of it? People were inundating him with complaints of crimes, etc. So he said, I'm setting up the committee so that present them to the committee. So that one, the law allows it. I've read to you that, sweetie, you are allowed to go and inform your head of family or an elder in your family, not even the head alone. Elders in your family, if you see a crime, then they can help take the matter up. So when the president set up the committee, he has done nothing illegal. It's allowed. Okujeto is an MP. And we are saying that list is not exhaustive. So we can all be part of it. Your head of family can be part of it. The chief of your village can be part of it. The chief of your town can be part of it. The chief of your city can be part of it. So that is not illegal. The one that will be illegal is if, sweetie, you come and give me a complaint that you've seen Mr. Benjamin Akapo in a car costing $2 million. And Mr. Akapo was a public officer, maybe he was a minister, or he did big government contracts, and your suspicion is that the contracts were bloated. Where the illegality will come in is that when we invite Mr. Akapo that appear before the oral committee, at this stage, we don't have that power.
Right.
So we are not doing that one.
Okay, hold for me. Before we come back into the studio, when you do go out to these places, like we saw in the video that was just on your screen, Exactly what do you do at these places? Are you asking people to stop working? Are you evicting people from places that you think they don't have, you know, the right to occupy those properties? What exactly do you do when you go out there? And also, where do you get your backing to do that?
Good. So now, when people bring you a complaint, okay, or give you information, we are compiling a report to send to the president and the attorney general. So one word, validation, validation, validation. If people tell you ABC, some of it you would have to go on the ground and validate the claims so that you know what you are writing about. If you don't visit, you don't know. You just say, oh, A reported this, B reported that. You just put them together and then forward to the president and the attorney general. No. So that's a validation exercise.
Okay.
Looking at some of the things that have been, what do you call it? The claims and the petitions that have been presented.
Okay.
So it's within because we are
Martin,
gathering the evidence and the information. So at least with that visit, we have pictures. We can put the pictures into the report.
Yeah.
Then the president will see that a picture is worth 1,000 words, respectfully.
But Martin, just quickly, we want to maximize the use of time. This validation, would it wade into the territory of investigation?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last word. We'll enter the territory of...
You used validation, and I'm saying this validation, would it wade into the territory of investigation?
Investigation, Martin.
Will this validation wade into the territory of investigation? That's what I'm asking.
Yes. No. We are not investigating. So we went there to look. We went there to see for ourselves and to take the pictures of the site so that we can put in the report. That's not an investigation properly so-called. It's to make sure that, yes, it's true. Some people have built on the land. It's true that government property is being vandalized on the land, etc. So that it means that we've checked. Because you wouldn't want to write about stuff that you don't know about. If somebody says, can you imagine, the petition is saying they vandalized government property, and you can see them in the picture. If we hadn't gone there, Mr. Akaku, would you have seen what was happening?
Okay, so Mr. Kwebu, thank you.
It's okay, you see.
Thank you.
I said, we are answering. We are answering, but it's very, very legal. Lawyer Daku knows it. But you know, it's politics too, so he has to be saying.
No. Okay, so hold for me, Mr. Kwebu. You've heard what Martin has said, that in the end, they are not investigating. You started by mentioning Iyoko OSP. He referred you to former President Kufuor and what was done then. I don't know whether you were following the political space at the time. That was actually a reminder for me. Yeah. But how do you respond to Martin before we move on to
first of all, and we must always start from this. I hold the view that a president doesn't have the power to set up any committee. When he referred to President Kufuor's Office of Accountability, he was the president at the time. We need to always make that distinction. But coming to his validation and not investigation properly so-called, you see how they are struggling with what they went to do there. If you want to determine ownership of a land, where do you do that? Is it not the Lands Commission? You want to go to the Lands Commission to determine whether a land belongs to the Republic and that it had been sold or is being given free of charge to somebody. When you go to the Lands Commission, you get a history of every land. Now, you go to people's homes, you go to people's lands, and with all these people following you, you think that the people of Ghana should sit back and fold their arms and not call this harassment because somebody says that, in his view, the land you have belongs to the government. Then you bring all these people there under the guise of validation. What are they validating? What are they validating? What authority do they have to investigate and validate the ownership of lands in this country?
It's interesting on the back of what you say, because even with the Lands Commission, and I am privy to the fact that there are so many instances, many cases that are in court, many cases where there are even claims, whether superior claims over which person owns land, who has title, and what belongs to government, which has been claimed by individuals, still pending. We can leave that and maybe question validity.
No, so it tells you that what they are doing, that is not how you determine ownership of a land, whether the land belongs to the state or it belongs to the individual. So don't go onto somebody's land and go and harass the person under the guise of...
Keep using that word.
What was the harassment that was brought to
you think it's okay? You think it's okay if these people walk into your home and tell you that we are coming to validate whether the land belongs to you or not?
I mean, this is also where...
It's state land.
How do you know it's state land?
So that's what we're going to check.
What right do they have? What happened to our state institutions? You see, we need to be very careful. Now, it seems that everybody is supporting that. Let's continue to do this. Bastardize our institutions. Today, you think that is against officials of NPP, but it's okay. Governance will continue. Things will change. We'll see how the people who are praising this will change their tone tomorrow. We need to be very careful as a country. We are building a country. We are not building political parties. So if what they are doing is wrong, we need to call it out. You think that when people walk into your home, okay, and demand to see the papers of your land, it will not amount to intimidation. Public officials. Imagine.
Now, this is where sometimes I get confused, because members of your party, for example, have been very quick to go to court, right? And there are some matters that if you feel aggrieved in, for example, you could say, well, this is trespass to my land. And I feel they have no basis. You see, on the back of what you were saying, so go to court.
Yes, exactly.
If you feel they were trespassing on your land, go to court and seek a remedy from the courts.
Great. But let me respond to that. And that is fair. And we've told our people, if anybody comes to disturb you, go to court. But it doesn't also stop us from calling this so-called committee what it is. That is an unconstitutional, illegal body set up to harass people.
Okay. So just a quick follow-up. You mentioned that they would be impeding the work of Iyoko, the OSP, among others. They say they are just gathering information. In fact, the last I checked,
the police here,
the last I checked,
what it takes to investigate corruption and corruption-related issues in the country.
I spoke to the Deputy AG, Alfred Tiayabua, just a few days ago. In fact, a number of the cases that we felt they hadn't been able to prosecute. Do you know where he laid part of the blame? In fact, a chunk of the blame?
No,
police prosecutors. No, hold for me.
Your investigation.
Police prosecutors.
Okay.
And there was even talk about the fact that maybe we need the Office of the Attorney General to have its own prosecutors, like we have in other jurisdictions. This was Alfred Tiayabua, former Deputy AG, Charles, Mr. Tobu in the studio.
Yes,
so
but see,
if you say that the system suffices, like has been mentioned, even let's move away from the fact that maybe it wasn't done post the fact. Let's say President Kufuor, his committee, let's say it was when he was president, right? Was Iyoko not there? Those were questions that were posed by Martin. Iyoko was there. Some of these state bodies were there. Yet we still had that accountability committee going on. So what is the difference? What has changed?
I think that you are missing the point.
Tell me, clarify the point.
If the president, has set up this committee after his presidency, my argument would have been different, or I probably wouldn't have even made any argument.
No, I'm taking away that. That's why I said whether post or pre the fact.
Was the president? We need to understand that what the president engaged in, the current president, was any legality set up a committee to do this.
Mr. Dako, so what you are essentially saying is that you support this move. It's only that you feel it was done before he was president. That's your beef. That's what you're saying.
Not that I support it, but I wouldn't have any problem with it if he did it after he was sworn in.
In other words, you wouldn't have any problem.
Yes, I wouldn't. But before he was sworn in, he didn't have the power to do that. That is what we are saying.
Okay.
And listen, this so-called committee, they have arrogated to themselves powers they don't have.
Okay.
And we need to question every move they make. Look, in the end, they are saying they will prepare every document and go and give it to the some
700 petitions have been prepared so far.
So we'll get there. I mean, if you understand that
And they say they are submitting that report
fruit from a poison
to
tree.
the president.
You know what is referred? It's going to be a fruit from a poison tree. If
it's a poison chalice, eh?
Exactly. No, the fruit of a poison tree. When the foundation is wrong, whatever comes out of it will be wrong as well. For us, I am not against police or official institutions engaging in investigation. Why? We all want this country to succeed. If there are corrupt deals, investigate them by all means. Use the appropriate channels. Use the appropriate state institution. Is all we are asking. We are not asking for a lot. Do the right thing. We have a constitution. We have our acts of parliament.
Right.
Let's work within these regulations.
I'm actually listening very, attentively because I want to understand you and I want to understand the fuss about this oral thing. Now, given Ghana's past challenges with prosecuting those who perpetrators of economic crimes, right? We have the Shraj, the Yoko, and all that. And looking at how public interest has risen in terms of our fight against corruption. Benjamin, we were just giving some figures yesterday about how much money we lose to corruption in millions or billions even. Yes. What's the figure? I forgot it.
Yeah.
Many billions.
Many billions.
Yes.
Now, we have a president-elect who says, I've listened to the cries of the people. They want us to tackle corruption head-on. So this is my way of gathering information. So the question I guess I'm asking you is, what would you have suggested to be done? Although we have all these institutions, and the president himself, the former president himself, said, until you're in trouble, you need to appreciate due process. And the reason, he says, we are unable to prosecute all these economic crimes is because we don't actually have evidence to hold them to it. What would you have suggested that to be done in terms of getting the evidence, which is the challenge to prosecuting these cases?
Yeah, you see, and I think this ties in with the earlier question Ben asked, and his issue he raised with TS point, that we have these state institutions, the police prosecutors, who are unable to prosecute cases.
Which means you will have a bad docket or a not so good docket. I'm not saying all of them. Yes. Which also means that the case will amount to nothing.
So you see, we are patriots, right? Let's say we are patriots. I am not against, like I said, fight against corruption. So do we then abandon our institutions and set up parallel institutions to do the work of our state?
It is not an institution, though.
No. I'm just saying. I am just trying
you realize that when the office of the OSP was set up, we said the same. We said the same thing about parallels and creating pseudo institutions doing the exact same work.
Well, good point. So I'm saying that what we need to do as a country is improve the work of these institutions. I mean, we may have to overhaul it in a very big way. We need to do that. So that, and look, the Attorney General's office, they have prosecutorial powers. They prosecute people, except that because of the number of cases, they're unable to do it alone. So they give some of the jobs to the police. Maybe we consider they should, because now we are producing a lot of lawyers. They should hire thousands of lawyers to do the prosecution, do the work for us.
Okay.
We need to build these institutions. Because look, at the end of the day, this so-called aura will die and will be gone with its experience and everything it has. But if you use the resources to build a state institution, the experiences will stay and we can pass it on.
Well, we don't know whether any state money has been pumped into oral, like you said.
No.
But very quickly, because Martin is also waiting in the wings, he's been very patient. Mr. Kwebu, I'll be with you in just a little bit. Straight question. You are a first-time MP. You've not even been in Parliament for 2 weeks.
Yes.
It was interesting seeing you spearheading this drive. Some would have said, oh, we would have seen the minority leader doing this. Is the NPP afraid of oral? Just give me a straightforward answer.
No. I mean, but if the thing is wrong, it's wrong.
No. As for the wrong, but you see, you've already stated your point on that. I'm just asking you a straightforward question.
Let's go to
Martin. No.
Okay.
But the point is
would you like to challenge oral in court? Would you like to test?
Oh, at the appropriate time, I think we will do that because you see, if you don't do it, what it means is that we are giving authority to people who don't have the power to set up.
All right. Thank you for those answers, Mr. Kwebu. Reactions to what you've heard Mr. Darko say so far.
And maybe Martin, he's my brother. He should give me 1 minute to respond to
30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds to respond to the issues you raised with Whistleblowers Act. He mentioned at Section 3 of the Whistleblowers Act. Yesterday, I think on one of your platforms, he raised these issues. And I was surprised because, you see, if the president really wants us to come under the Whistleblowers Act, he should have told us. right? And that would mean...
Ab initio, eh?
Yeah, you should have told us that you are setting up this committee based on the Whistleblowers Act. And look, the Whistleblowers Act gives you the people, like he's listed. They are all here. I have opened my law.
I think he's mentioned a plethora of them, so I don't want us, for the sake of time, to go back to that.
Go there. So, why a committee?
Okay, all right.
Why a committee?
Martin, back to you.
People can send the information to them. So why this committee?
Right.
Why do we set up a committee when there are people who have already been designated by law to receive the information?
Martin, your responses.
Yeah, so you do a committee because it's clear that you need to show them who. But then this list was always there, and how many people even knew about it? So you see now we're giving the education. We're giving so much education, then people would come. So as for the committee, it's very important because you need a number of people. So you see that Dominic is an accountant, okay, and the auditor, right? I'm a lawyer. Honorable Okujeto, member of parliament, so he knows how the public system works and the parliament, the legislature, and so on and so forth, right? So the committee has, as Madam is a Remonacha, investigative journalist, decades of experience, right? So when we see the complaints, it helps us. We can't just take anything and just present to the president. So with the committee, we're able to appreciate and help shape the complaints, etc., to be able to present to the president, the attorney general, and then to the various law enforcement agencies, depending on each one's jurisdiction. Yes, so as for this committee, it's very legit, it's constitutional, it's within our law.
So like you said, you're just gathering information that you eventually disseminate from the AG's office to others, and you've also mentioned validation. That's where your job ends.
Absolutely, that is phase one of the ORA.
What is phase two?
If you go through the NDC manifesto, they've made clear that
we are running the country
there will be
NDC
various phases of the ORA. So from here, there is a way it is going to help the OSP in the actual execution of the mandate. So if you see, go through the OSP's half-year report, they've stated that yes, they are willing to work with ORA. It helps. It helps. Like, I'm happy we repeated the point to Lawyer Dak when you asked him. All these institutions existed, and yet the problem of corruption has been going up and up and up. Okay?
Martin,
so before we
go, because we don't have so much time, I do want to find out from you, we don't have so much time. Will your committee, will the work that your committee is doing end when we have a Minister of Justice and Attorney General? The work you and Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa and the rest, Raymond Archer, are doing, will your work end when we get an Attorney General?
Oh, yes, that's how it's been stated. But you see, when you say end, by all means, the work is going to end. But as to a specific date, we can't tell. If you literally, let me clarify. If you literally mean the day, right now, the Attorney General, let's clarify. The Attorney General is acting Attorney General, okay? In the case of J.H. Mensah versus Attorney General, the Supreme Court said when a government takes over, these persons we are even calling ministers designate. Look, simply what the Supreme Court says is that they are called acting ministers. So when I see just designate, I'm like, designate too big a word. They are acting ministers. You can add designate, but let's be very clear that they are acting ministers.
Right.
So, sweetie, it doesn't mean that because Dr. Dominic Ayine is an acting minister, then straight away we should stop and go and give it the work when it's not even done.
So when we do get a substantive minister, your work ends. I just wanted that clarity.
No, it doesn't end the way, and that's why I'm clarifying for you so that you appreciate that. Let's say if Dr. Ayine were confirmed, let's say
today,
next Monday, 20th. It doesn't mean automatically on the 20th our work ends. No, we will need some time to wrap up. And there's even provision for extension of time.
Okay, Mr.
So
Kwebu,
the work is not ending, to be very clear.
Right.
It is not ending when the day Dr. Ayine takes office. No, that's not the day.
All right.
The day Dr. Ayine takes office, we'll now look at where we are and then see, is it possible to wrap up when is it possible to wrap up? Then we'll send information and then we'll look at it.
Martin, we have to go. I've seen a number of comments referencing the Transitions Act. That has nothing to do with forming, oral, right? Has nothing at all to do with it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Martin Kwebu, thank you so much for your time. Mr. Darko, you have 20 seconds. Final words. Let's go.
Well, I thank you for the invitation. I think that it's good that we all do our bit to protect state and state assets. We have to fight corruption wherever they are, but we need to use the appropriate legal means, appropriate legal channels, use the state constitutionally mandated body to do that. We do all these things. We require the executive to operate within the law. And you know why? It's to protect you and I. It's for the protection of the citizen, not for anything.
But I'll repeat what I've said throughout today. So because if you've done no wrong and people start claiming, this is not, you wouldn't be bothered, right?
Yeah.
So there are no fears there, right?
It's true until somebody comes to you and puts you behind bars. When you know in your heart that you haven't done anything,
gentlemen,
thank you. The process is done.
Thank you. John Darko is Member of Parliament for Swami and a lawyer as well, right?
Yes,
sir. Is that okay. And we also had Martin Kwebu, also a lawyer and a member of the oral team, joining the conversation.
Yes, I do want to shout out happy birthday to a lovely, ambitious young woman, brilliant girl, the Deputy Women's Commissioner for University of Ghana, my little sister, meaning me, Angela Fisera Mabochi. Happy birthday. I love you so much. I'll see you. I'll bring you cake. Okay, that's it. But before we go, I do want to remind you that Medicus Hospital, a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind, spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. You're still here. And we've assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Yao Safo, the drive time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, we offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. There is also a 24-hour pharmacy that ensures you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicines. And we bring you the most powerful medicine of all time, simple human kindness and empathy. We take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards. Medicus Hospital, a place of healing. Thank you so much for joining us today for the AM show.
Well, before we go, let me just sneak in this else. So Alicia Nkunim Wilson of Golden Age Scholar, happy 14th birthday to you. Alicia Nkunim Wilson. Today's your 14th birthday, and this message is coming from Colonel and Mrs. Wilson and all of your siblings. Have a happy, happy birthday. And that's the note on which we're going to wrap the conversation this morning. Sweetie Abochi is ready to give you her parting.
See you tomorrow. Stay for Joy News Desk. Bye for now.